Halloween.
Forever.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and watch John Carpenter movies. And guess what, guys? I'm all out of bubblegum. Welcome to the fucking October Showdown episode of Halloween is Forever. I'm Brian.
I'm Meg.
I'm Steve.
Guys, it's here. We've been waiting 12 months for it. It's the Halloween motherfucking showdown, guys.
I'm feeling so good about this, you know?
I have no idea what to expect. This is going to be a weird one, and I'll explain in a couple minutes why that was the case. But as always, thank you guys for tuning in. And we were just talking about this before we got on here. Couple of interesting things to call out. One, we're getting an absolute fucking shit ton of new listeners, like thousands a day, which is fantastic. And I'm very, 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 very thankful, and we all are very excited about that.
Do you know how many people are listening to this that also have podcasts and they're just like, "Oh, is your podcast successful?" Oh, so sad.
I know. Yeah, we are getting like thousands and thousands of listeners a week, which is tremendous. We're very, very excited about that, and it's not meant to rub it into other podcasts or anything like that. But because we're getting so many new listeners, it begs obviously for us to do a little explanation of who the fuck we are and why we're and what we're doing in this episode. So for those of you who have been listening for a while, our loyal Halloween is Forever listeners who have been here since the summer when we started off, thank you so much. And for those of you who are new, what we do every single month is we pick a topic, a subgenre, a something, and then we each pick a movie that we feel represents that topic, that subgenre, whatever it may be. Our listeners, our social media friends on the Instagrams and the Twitters and all that stuff, they help us pick what that topic is. First of all, they suggest the topics. We have a big running list that we choose from. We randomly generate 3, and then we put it out on social media and have our friends help us pick what we're going to talk about. This time around was a little bit different because we did do the topics, right? And John Carpenter films ran away with it. You guys helped us pick John Carpenter films. But then what we did is we put a whole mess of John Carpenter films on a roulette wheel on Steve's phone, and then we ended up with what I can only describe as 3 of his fucking worst films, which is going to be very, very fun because it would have been very, and obviously you're hoping for like Halloween, or The Thing, or Prince of Darkness, or They Live, or something like that. But then it comes down to like, we all have such deep admiration and affection for decades for those films that you already kind of have your mind made up a little bit. So this is me trying to put a positive spin on getting dealt an absolute shit hand by the roulette wheel. But the roulette gods doth frown upon us. And we got 3 of John Carpenter's lesser known and frankly lesser celebrated horror movies. But the beautiful thing about that is we're coming in with kind of a clean slate because we all either already didn't like these movies or had never seen them. And I'm a John Carpenter fan. I mean, you can see I have the John Carpenter movie posters and shit all over my office here. But my goodness, there was one of them I'd never seen before. And I think a couple of you...
I haven't seen any of them.
You hadn't seen any of the 3, so
right.
These are all first-time watches for you.
Oh,
Steve and I had never seen The Ward. So, without further ado, the movies, we talked about this on previous episodes, so obviously no spoilers here, but I drew the unabashed... I mean, I don't think I'm speaking out of school here to say that what people point to as John Carpenter's worst film, in most instances...
It drove him out of film.
Ghosts of Mars. So I drew Ghosts of Mars. So we put some whammies on the spin, right? On the roulette wheel. And turns out we hit those goddamn whammies. So I was Ghost of Mars. Steve had a film from 2010. So 2001 Ghosts of Mars, right? Steve got a film from 2010 this is the one that none of us had seen, which is called The Ward. And then Meg, you got from 1995. Am I correct in saying that? Yeah. 95, 96. I think it's 95. It is Village of the Damned, which is the remake of the 1960 60 movie, which is a film adaptation of a book from several years before that. So some of these movies you may know very, very well. Some of you may not. And that's kind of where we're at. So going into this, if it was like The Thing and Halloween and Prince of Darkness or They Live or something like that, I think we would come in kind of knowing who was going to vote for what. Like, I'm a diehard fan of Halloween. You know what I mean? Like, we kind of know where
right.
I have no idea where this is going to land. So I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty excited about that. So
I think it's good for two reasons. One, we don't know how today's going to do.
No.
Two,
we might all be dead. We might all die.
We're not going to die. But
okay. Good.
What
Thanks.
we can do is promise the audience that next year we'll have John Carpenter films again as a choice.
Yeah.
And if they pick it, we'll do the roulette wheel again, but we can do it with all good choices.
Yes. Yeah, we will take the 3 worst choices. We'll be off the board.
Yeah. So
but,
it's a tease to get people to listen for a year.
You have to listen for 12 more months, and then
we'll
might
talk
get
about The Thing.
some good John Carpenter. No, there's no way that we don't pick a subgenre between now and then where we talk about those movies as well. Right. So we shall see.
Yeah.
We shall see. In any case, I mentioned helping us vote on the social medias. Please do that. If you feel so inclined, give us a follow over at the Instagrams. It's at Halloween is Forever. We're also getting a lot of great traction over there, which is really fun. And we post tons of spooky stuff daily. And Meg is actually doing something really cool on there and on the TikToks. What's our TikTok again, Meg?
It's
Meg,
Halloween
Meg's the only
is
one who knows
Forever.
what TikTok is. So
It's Halloween is Forever Pod. That's the only. Last episode we fucked up there, but Halloween is Forever Pod. Come follow us.
Halloween is Forever Pod on the TikToks. Again,
Yep.
I still do not fully know what the TikToks are. The app is on my phone. I'm scared to click on it. Meg is handling that over there. And she is doing a 31 Days of Classic Horror, which we put together a list, and she's spearheading that and made a spooky little video to introduce it. And I've been keeping up with it.
Yeah, no, it's really awesome.
And I had seen of the first one, there was the Satan at Play one. What was the first one that I had not seen?
It's like the Haunted Mansion one.
Oh, yeah. And then there was the one that was like the House of Satan. I don't think I had seen that one, the little short film.
Yeah, because there's X-Rays on day one. It was that, and then I think the Haunted Mansion, the one that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
And then the Satan at Play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're starting from the first day of October all the way through Halloween, obviously, and we're starting in the silent film era with some films from like 1907, 1910, and it's going to go all the way up to, I think we're finishing in like the 60s, right? Early 60s-ish or something like that.
I
late
think
50s, early 60s.
Psycho's the last one, so.
Yeah, so that'll be super fun to revisit some of those, because many of them I've never ever watched before, and actually a handful of them I've never seen, so I'm excited for that.
It's nice because a lot of them are on YouTube.
I know, yeah. A lot of those ones I was like, oh, these are like French silent films. And then I look at it, it's like, oh, it's 6 minutes long and it's on YouTube. But it was really, really interesting to see. And I'm a sucker for anything in like really grainy black and white, just makes things creepier to me. So
the first one on that list, which if I remember is that the like Haunted Mansion one, and that's a French one that was like listed as like the first like horror film ever recorded, and it was kind of cool to see like how they view horror in there. It's just like all this almost like magical, mystical type thing where
it's almost like a magic act. Satan doing a magic act is like what most of these are, which is cool. It's doing the shit that when me and my friends made films when we were little, and we'd like hold up like a basketball and then cut the tape and then drop it and put your hand back in the same place. But like it's gone. Like, that was film back then.
The flying
bat.
Pretty much. It's great.
But yeah, so we need to do this at some point. Maybe it's an after the holiday season thing or something. But so Meg was the thing that kind of started this off is she was like, I haven't seen a lot of these like super classic, 20s, 30s, 40s, type of horror films. So we helped, we kind of she put the list together. We were like throwing suggestions out there and stuff because it's just a blind spot for you. Some of that super old horror stuff, right? And you kind of explain that in the video. Check it out on the TikToks or on the Instagrams. Oh, and I should probably say at Hallow Forever on Twitter, Halloween is Forever Podcast on Facebook, or Halloween is Forever Pod on Gmail, especially if you got some of the new suggestions for episodes you want to throw us. But we were talking about this before we got on. my blind spot that is a Halloween horror adjacent thing is metal music. Like I've never been a huge. I was a punk skater punk kid. I was diehard to Misfits, Danzig, Minor Threat, Black Flag. Like that was my shit when I was in middle school and high school. But never really got into the metal scene, and I only know stuff that's like super like theatrical horror metal. Like I like Ghost. I like. I mean, would you call Alice Cooper? I mean, Alice Cooper's metal. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
I like all that stuff. But you guys are way more into that sort of thing. I like King Diamond, like anything where they're like, there's gonna be spooky shit happening on stage. Then I'm like, all right, I'm into this.
Men
it's kind of like
falsettos
a play.
too.
Yes, that too.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on Gwar?
I like Gwar.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I do tend to like the more like theatrical type of singing style. Like I love Bruce Dickinson. I love Maiden. So like I just mentioned King Diamond and Maiden. So that falsetto is definitely something that whatever reason I'm attracted to. And Gwar is the opposite of that.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I like Gwar and I love the stage theatrics and stuff. But like I don't even know where to start. Like I'll look at a Gwar, I'll watch music videos or live performance on YouTube, but like I don't know what to start with. So maybe that's something we got to do at some time with like 31 Days of Metal, and you guys can tell us what I need to listen to on a given day.
I'm just gonna make you listen to Cannibal Corpse every single day.
Yeah, that was what we were talking about. The only other thing I have as far as like my look into like the metal scene is I like. Friends that were really into like Hatebreed, you know what I mean, in high school and stuff like that. And it's kind of, we were talking about, it's a little bro-y-ish, I don't know. Or at least my mind it was.
Jeremy Jost is a posy dude,
Yeah.
See, I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what
he's positive.
Yeah. I love Jamie Jost as a person, and I like his podcast alone is amazing. But every time I hear his music, I cringe a little bit because of like that hardcore style of singing where it's just like, let's be friends. And I'm like, I can't handle
the messaging and the sound just don't always gel.
Well,
like the lyrics
really
aren't
like
great.
Idols.
Usually,
you know the band Idols?
Yeah, I'm going to see them next weekend.
Oh wow, that's incredible. That's where?
I'm going to Detroit, but I also am seeing them in Baltimore the following week. So, yeah.
So I love them, but they're great too because it's like the theme doesn't match the tone of his voice at all. He's like, let's hog it out. And he's like screaming.
I like the way he does it with that like positive
Well, he's got the British, the accent always helps, right? The Cockney nature that I'm a sucker for it as well.
Yeah.
What's the name of the band?
Typo Negative.
Typo Negative. So I know that he's the guy who, like, he's a big giant guy who I think is fully convinced he's a vampire. Am I mistaken in knowing?
Yeah, he's like, and in like when it comes to like Halloween-ish time, the moment October hits, everyone's just talking about Typo Negative. Where I like talking about him as a vampire, and he's like super sexual and like all of his music,
like sad boy stuff a little bit too. There's a lot of sad boy tones in the music, and his last name is Steele. What's the guy's name again?
Peter Steele.
I had a friend in high school who I haven't talked to in a while, but I won't say his last name. His name's Scott, because if he would ever listen to this, he would know he would have to fess up to this immediately. He is also really tall, dark, jet black hair, really tall, really big dude. Kind of looks a little bit like him in a weird way. But when we would be playing like GoldenEye when we were younger, and you'd have to put your name in, like what your name is going to be, or anything. We'd be playing any video game and we had to enter a name in, and we'd always put like, fart shit, some dumbass, like, just whatever, 13-year-old boy would put in there. He would always put Cold Steel. And we would make fun of him so fucking hard.
That's pretty great.
My guy's name would be like Turd Face, and then his would be Cold Steel.
Cold Steel.
So every time I think of that guy, I think of my friend Scott. So in any case, let's get into let's talk about beers. Anybody got beers? I know Meg in lieu of beers is enjoying a nice, what did you call it?
It's an apple cider mimosa.
Oh, I was thinking what you were eating.
Oh, my food.
Bowl.
Yeah, I'm eating a Harvest Bowl. I have destroyed my body all weekend, so I decided that I needed all the vegetables in the world today.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a bowl of farts, basically, is what it sounds like.
My breath is going to smell very badly. Yeah.
Yeah. but you were going full on apple cider mimosa. I've got
top to bottom.
Yeah, I saw a picture of you yesterday with what appeared to be was a Bloody Mary of some sort or something like that. Was that accurate?
Yeah, I went Michelada. Yeah. Oh yeah, I did. Yeah. I did have a Bloody Mary. Then I switched over to Michelada. So, both. All of the above.
Yeah, I like when you get the opportunity to switch drinks and switch gears and what type of booze you're consuming, and it's still brunch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of that as well. I'm going with, again, we were talking about pumpkin beers, and it's certainly 'tis that time of year. I'm an unabashed fan of the pumpkin beers. A lot of cool local ones around here, but you know what? I'm going with Sam Adams Jacko. I've just been crushing this one because it's 4.4%. I mean, what other pumpkin beer has that much character that you could just crush them at 4.4%? I don't know. I'm digging it though.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm drinking healthy.
Ooh.
You can't
see it
on the video. It's the Abjuration matcha tea milkshake. Ooh. So it's matcha. That's healthy. Mm-hmm. And it comes out very green.
Yeah, I was going to say, can I want to see that color? It's pretty intense
looking. Yeah.
Yeah. Very green, very spooky. But yeah, it's not like one of those sour slop type deals. Mm-hmm. Where they made some goofy green thing. It just tastes like Starbucks' green tea frappuccino, but beer.
Interesting.
Yeah, but beer form.
You know what? I'm we've talked about on the show, and for those of you who are new to the show, I am just a pumpkin spice slut. I love pumpkin spice candles, pumpkin spice anything, and I love like warming kind of mulling spices like year round. I love that kind of stuff: cinnamon, nutmeg, clove, and allspice, and all that stuff. I'm usually not a huge Starbucks pumpkin spice latte guy. It's just like a little sweet for me. Mm-hmm. But they've got this pumpkin spice cold brew thing happening right now.
That's what I fuck up
with.
Oh yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah, do you get the cold foam on it? Oh yeah.
Fuck yeah, I get the cold foam.
Yeah.
What do I look like? Some kind of goddamn amateur?
Dunkin' Donuts has like very similar thing where I live now, Dunkin's right there, so I have to go that route. But still,
yeah, I saw the commercial for the Dunkin' one. I'm gonna go try that.
I love my Dunky Doos. My order is iced coffee with do the pumpkin shot and then oat milk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I made the horrible mistake of, because I'm, like I said, this time of year, I'm putting the pumpkin spice cream. I'm usually a black coffee guy, but I put or espresso. I put the pumpkin spice creamer in all season, right? As soon as it hits the shelf, I'm going pumpkin spice creamer every day.
I feel like those are such conflicting things, dude. Like I go from black coffee to all the spice, and that's a shoulder shake one. All the spice.
It is literally. Just turn on a dime. Going from just black coffee all year round to September 1st, I'm going super sweet pumpkin spice everything. So it is definitely an about face. But I made the mistake. Speaking of oat milk, I made the mistake. I ordered groceries and they didn't have the pumpkin spice creamer, so they substituted almond milk, pumpkin spice almond milk.
Fuck yeah!
And it just turns into goddamn scrambled eggs in your fucking coffee. It just coagulates and just like all the proteins just like coagulate into these ribbons. It looks like fucking egg drop soup in your. It looks like fucking cold break. You know what I mean? Or hot break in your kettle. You know, it looks like freaking It looks like trube that's just going to settle to the bottom of your fucking glass. So I was mad about it. I flipped the table in my room, in my house, and made a whole scene. But yeah, that's my shit. That's my shit.
That'll teach him.
Sons of bitches. You don't think that I'll cut off my nose to spite my face? I fucking will, and then I'll write you a letter about it. No, I won't. So, Steve, for those of you who are new, once again, we do this every month. We do the Showdown episode, and then our off episodes are what we call mini-sodes, which has become a joke of sorts because they're 2 fucking hours long. but
mini-sodes are still shorter than the Showdown, so that's how.
Yeah, the Showdown's 9 hours. Yeah. So we had the mini-sode after the main episode is always whoever wins gets to pick, a punishment if they want to, or they can be a benevolent champion, as we've discussed before. Is if you win, you can either inflict pain by making your fellow co-hosts watch something absolutely fucking dreadful, or you can, like I said, be a kind and gracious champ. We do have a championship belt, again, for those of you who are new. I'm looking at it right now, although Steve currently holds that belt. He is currently the champ. Last month in our modern slasher episode, Steve took home the belt. We have now all owned the belt at some point. Steve won last month. I won the 2 months before that. Meg won the first month. So I might add, I am still the winningest champion in the history of Halloween is Forever. But that could all change today.
It could.
Well, it will all change today because there's no fucking way I'm going to win this month because I drew Ghosts of Mars. So one of these two are going to bring it home, and I'm ultimately going to probably determine who that is. I don't know for sure. So one of them.
Brian, you look really great today.
Hey, thanks. I have accepted my fate. As soon as I drew Ghosts of Mars, I was like, your boy's not bouncing back this month, so maybe in November.
I mean, there was a possibility because none of us had seen the ward, so we didn't know.
True.
We didn't know how bad that got, if it got bad.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
So.
That's true. Long, wildly about way of saying that Steve gets to pick the order as the champ. Comes with all the benefits of the champ, and one of those is you get to pick the order for the next Showdown episode. So Steve will pick who goes first, second, and third in our John Carpenter Roulette Showdown.
Mm-hmm. And with that, I'm not going to belabor the point. We're going to go Brian, Meg, and then myself.
Okay, bring it up the rear. Bring it up the rear. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I dabbled with a couple of different strategies, going typically in the middle, but Steve's going to bring it up at the end, which I can appreciate that strategy.
I was gonna make Meg go first just to make her mad, but I just think it's better to.
I was about to compliment you two, but I didn't want to draw any attention to myself.
Meg actually, you guys can't see her who aren't watching the feed here. Meg slinked down below the camera and just pretended she wasn't there. So Steve wouldn't pick her to go first. She hates going first.
Yeah, I was going to. Like, that was my original strategy before we even picked movies.
Yeah.
I was like, I just make Meg go first because it's funny.
Just to freak her out.
Just to freak out. But I just think it's important that we just get Ghost of Mars out of the way.
Yeah.
You know what? And honestly, I'm kind of excited because, again, I'm not going to win. This movie is an absolute pile of fucking horse shit, but it's going to be fun to talk about, I think.
Yeah.
Because
I think so.
It's silly bad.
It's so silly bad.
Yeah, it's really, really, truly the case. So for those of you who have not seen Ghosts of Mars, this was kind of touted in a lot of ways as like John Carpenter's kind of return to form in a lot of senses in 2001. This was a big project. It was a pretty high budget project. It had some high profile people attached to it. Doing a little bit of research on this, there's a lot of speculation, and this one, I have not seen this come right out of John Carpenter's mouth, but it does seem to be a generally accepted idea that this was originally pitched as a another sequel to Escape from New York. So Escape from LA, unfortunately, bombed, which... That's a silly, dumb movie, but like it's kind of fun. Like I like Escape from LA. Okay, Escape from New York is very much of its time, and it's easier to kind of give it a little bit of leeway. And I love that movie, and I love Kurt Russell. So I will listen. I will swallow whatever bullshit Kurt Russell throws my way. I don't give a shit. I adore him, but Escape from LA bombed so hard. Okay, it's got a guy surfing in a post-apocalyptic LA city alongside someone driving in like a 50 Chevy convertible. Like I love that scene.
If I don't know, I don't want to harp too much on Escape from LA, but it's like if the effects were better in that movie, I think it would be looked more favorably upon. But like that scene that you just described is one of the most egregiously like eye fucking things.
I know, because but it's so silly. That's why I love it.
It's so silly,
so
but
dumb.
it's like if the effects were better for that silliness, then it would be more loved, I think.
Perhaps, and I think probably people are looking at it with rose-colored glasses a little bit now, and maybe it seems people are starting to do that with Ghosts of Mars, because I posted something about it on the Instagram, and I got a lot of very mixed responses, anywhere from "I fucking love this movie, it's my favorite movie" to "I want this movie to burn." Like, it's all over the place, and that is normally the cycle. You know what I mean? Like 20 to 30 years later is when people all of a sudden are like, "No, that wasn't bad. That was good." I'm like, Anyway, that is obviously a matter of opinion. But this was pitched as a Snake Plissken, Kurt Russell vehicle, and it was going to be Escape from Mars. Knowing that, it makes a lot more sense. Like, this would make a lot more sense as a Snake Plissken type of silly action, horror, sci-fi escape movie. And we'll get into it. It doesn't land that way at all. But so it jumps off, and it's, again, futuristic sci-fi it doesn't necessarily, it has a post-apocalyptic feel, but it doesn't take place on Earth. Of course, it takes place on these colonies, Earth colonies, human colonies on Mars in the year 2176, and they're in the process of like terraforming Mars. And I think they mentioned that they're 80% to the Earth's atmosphere, so it's livable.
Right.
And there are colonies of humans all over Mars. There's different like bases and villages and all that sort of thing, kind of spread all over the planet. And there is this kind of roving something, right? Almost a cloud of, if you will, kind of passing across and leaving all this destruction in its wake in these various villages and settlements and things like that all over the planet of Mars. Boy, that soundtrack is like listening to nails in your ear. That industrial, and I like intense Carpenter's music. You know, it's obviously, typically kind of a little bit more on the simplistic side. This is very like intensely industrial. 2001, almost
it set the tone for how serious they were
backing
taking
track
them.
Type of thing.
Yeah, they were definitely setting the tone for how serious they were taking themselves in this movie too.
I honestly didn't hate it, though. Like, I might be the outlier when I say this, but I didn't hate it. And the soundtrack is John Carpenter's composition as performed by Anthrax, Steve Vai, and Buckethead. Yeah. But it comes out sounding like the soundtrack to the game Doom.
Okay. I could see that a little bit.
Which, I mean, fits because that was all about demons on Mars.
Why does it felt a little bit more, and these are not my genre. Like, I know who those people are. I know Buckethead is. I know who Anthrax is and stuff. But like, this is not my genre. But it definitely had a bit of a weird nu metal vibe to me. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's what got stuck in my head when I heard it.
It makes sense because of when that time period too.
Right.
Exactly.
This was late 90s, early 2000s, right?
We were all wearing Janko jeans and, listening to Limp Bizkit and all of that stuff,
Right. Yeah, we were down with the sickness, every single one of us. But it was he still put his name above the title, which I appreciate the balls to make this John Carpenter's Ghosts of Mars still. He likes, this was around the era where he was doing name above the title shit though. Obviously it was John Carpenter's Vampires. It was John Carpenter's, now that's a very generic title, and John Carpenter's Village of the Damned, which we'll talk about, is a name above the title, but that's also a remake, so I can see why. But I can't imagine when they put this out they thought it was going to do great. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong in assuming that, but you look at this, it's Kurtzman, it's Nicotero. These are like top flight effects people though. Like, he had the crew there. Like, this movie had so much potential.
On paper, it looks amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially if you put it out like now with how big Jason Statham is. Yeah. And and
Ice Cube, and these were, I mean, Ice Cube was already a name, obviously, at the time. Jason Statham less so. But in any case, so the premise is, so all of these unexplained deaths are happening on these settlements and towns all over Mars, and then you come to learn that there's some sort of microbiological, perhaps spiritual remnants of organisms or a society, perhaps even, that used to inhabit Mars. Question mark, and were kind of awakened by the human terraforming of the planet. So they suggest that they're ghosts or souls, even at some point, of ancient Martians. But the one scientist kind of early on explains that they're actually these kind of microorganisms that are like airborne kind of thing. So, but we'll get to it in a minute. When they kind of zoom in and give you this kind of first person view of like these, whatever it is, going in, jumping from body to body and taking people over, it very much has a spirit type of kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
So I'm not entirely sure what they were going for there, but I like the idea that it's 2176 and people are still explaining unnatural, or I'm sorry, not unnatural. They're explaining away natural phenomenon by saying ghost. It's literally almost the end of the 22nd century, and people were still like, oh, airborne, germ theory is ghosts.
Right.
So like they're fucking cavemen. So I kind of dug that, but it's never really truly explained in any real way, to be honest with you.
No, it's that vague. Yeah, it's a microbiome, or it's some sort of microbe that is also the remnants of a consciousness of like a
so it
former
is spiritual
race.
in a sense, but
In a sense, yeah. But like, because you get scenes of like what they originally looked like, even though they're this red cloud now.
Yeah.
You get scenes of what they actually looked like, and it's like,
yeah, they were like big,
CGI.
weird lizard people, fish lizards or something.
They look like if anybody's ever played the game Halo, the kind of Arbiter. They look like the Arbiter.
You're very That's a great way to describe them. That's exactly what they look like. It's like if Harryhausen made an Arbiter kind of thing or something. But it's very much it's weird because they are, I imagine the design, which you see them kind of almost barely any more than a silhouette in that kind of flashback-ish type of scene or whatever. But it is kind of like they look like reptilian fish people, maybe not. So I assume they're kind of alluding to this idea that because they are humanoid in nature, that is kind of they went through some similar evolutionary process as we did on Earth. Right. But they got stuck up in Mad Max times a little bit. You know what I mean? So it just had so much potential. You know what I mean? It's just so. In any case, we jump into this mining train that's going across Mars through this kind of like forbidden area kind of thing, if you will, and you are introduced to this team of security officers that are hitching a ride on this train. And I'm not going to go by any means, we're not going to go scene by scene because this movie doesn't deserve it, but and boy, I have it scrolled down here a little bit further, but her name, so it's Natasha Henstridge's character, and I'm just going to refer to him as the actors, not the characters' names because they don't really matter at all. But
although Jason Statham's character of Jericho
is such a 2001 fucking name. My friend Scott, he probably put Jericho in the name of his character in 007. It was Cold Steel, Jericho, and Down with the Sickness or some shit. You pretty quickly, these are like hard-boiled security officer type of people who are on these like tours of duty on Mars, of course. And you quickly learn that she is using some sort of like short-acting psychotropic drug, recreationally, which may or may not come back later, question mark, I don't know. But it's tetramamoclide.
Monochloride.
Tetramonochloride. That's it. I completely butchered the
I
spelling.
had to Google it because I was just like, what is this? I was like...
Yeah, the autocorrect really did not do me a solid there. Tetramonochloride. And I was like... There's no street name for it. I just wrote, oh, no, not tetramonochloride. Is it not called like Schwank or something?
Right.
Is there not like a 2001
no...
street name for this?
Or even just Tetro?
Yeah, something, anything. But it's obviously causing her to do these like, you know, kind of subdued hallucinations. It's something she's taking to like pass the time kind of thing. And you get to know there's so many great, you know, late 90s, early 2000s people in this cast. So like I said, on paper, it looks great, right? So she immediately starts seeing things that just could be like on the cover of a Pink Floyd album. Like it's so stereotypical, like 2001 idea of like tripping on whatever the psychotropic drug is. But then I was like, okay, whatever, you know, this was, I have not seen this movie since it came out in 2001. So it had been 20 years since I saw this movie. Didn't remember a lot about it besides the fact that I did not enjoy it. But all of a sudden I'm like, oh, Pam Grier. Okay. Like I'm starting to get on board a little bit now. You learn the name of Ice Cube's character, although you have not been introduced to him yet. His name really rolls off the tongue. James Desolation Williams. Which is the clunkiest fucking nickname in the world.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Desolation. You know what? A catchy nickname is usually less than 4 syllables, but, you know, who am I? Who am I to judge?
That's what happens when you have to replace Snake Plissken in a hurry.
Yes, 100%. It's almost like they got the red light on the Snake Plissken, you know, sequel, the Escape from Mars sequel, and we're like, you got 3 weeks to turn this into a different movie. And we'll get deeper into that. But that feels like what this movie suffered from the most. The set pieces are pretty sick, to be honest with you. And if you insert in your brain Snake Plissken into some of these set pieces, you're like, oh, this is kind of cool. You know what I mean? It reminds you of the settlement. It's a Martian kind of Martian adobe hut kind of things. Version of like the shantytown kind of settlement in Escape from LA in a lot of ways. Yeah.
The whole film is pretty much like an Old West, like Wild West film.
There's the one main kind of, you know, road through town almost kind of thing.
Well, I mean, you have a train that goes between all the mining towns.
Sure.
Which was kind of cool in the beginning. Like, you don't see so many miniatures matched up against matte paintings. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the first things you see. I was like, oh, that's, you know, an old style. You don't see very often. But there's hot air balloons. There's even the trucks kind of look like carriages. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's all very small mining town kind of, and then you could call like the security force that we're talking about, they're like the Pinkertons of way back in the day. They represent the government. They're going into a fucking small town to bring out this outlaw. Yeah. You know, and it's outlaw transport movie.
Absolutely. It was meant to be a throwback to like an 80s space western. But no one told the performers, unfortunately.
No one got it.
Yeah, the concept is there on paper, and you see it. It's just no one told any of the actors. That's what it was. So like I said, the set pieces are pretty sick. I really like the little science fiction details that Carpenter likes to throw into things, like you get like headaches for several months when you do your first tour on Mars because of the different levels of, you know, there's less oxygen in the atmosphere. And how time moves faster. I don't fully get that, but he was talking about how like a tour on Mars is twice as long on Earth or something. Did you catch that?
I caught it. He said like when you sign a contract for a year on Mars is 2 on Earth. Is 2 on Earth. I don't know if that's completely 1-to-1, but Mars and Earth both are on a 24-hour day-night cycle.
I thought that was the whole idea of why Mars is like the closest cousin to Earth, you know? Yeah. But I like when he injects those little tiny kind of like, you know, science nuggets, sci-fi nuggets in there, right? Jason Statham, I don't dislike Jason Statham, but in this movie, he was full on give me hemorrhoids. Like he was trying to be so badass. He was trying to be so like, I'm the domineering, kind of badass bro kind of guy, and he's just a shitbag character. He's bargain bin Bruce Willis. That's like what he's trying to go for.
He even has Die Hard like hair at that point.
Yeah.
Because he still has his hair, but it's very obviously receding.
Yeah. He just feels like a rip-off Bruce Willis. And he's
British Bruce Willis.
Yeah, he's what's the character? I posted about this a while ago. He's like Tommy Knife Fingers version of Bruce Willis.
Sharp-Hand Joe.
Tommy Knife Fingers. I was way off. Sharp-Hand Joe. Yeah, the Freddy Krueger ripoff. Tommy Knife Fingers. That's my personal one. I'm releasing at the end of the month, guys. Smash that like and subscribe button. Pre-orders for Tommy Knife Fingers are coming out any second.
Do you ever notice like how now, like I think even newer movies, he talks a lot less, but in this movie, he talked so much. And you're like, you need to stop.
He never shuts the fuck up. Oh my god.
Oh god.
Yeah.
And every scene is him trying to turn Natasha Henstridge, who he believes is a lesbian.
Yeah. And the inverse, Pam Grier's character, who is gay, is is like hitting on Natasha Henstridge's character, and so there's like this weird battle. It's very uncomfortable. So I was like, the hot air balloon thing. You could tell it was meant to be a big scene with like a Kurt Russell type of character, and they liked the idea enough that they kept it, but it was completely inconsequential.
Yeah. Either a Kurt Russell character or a Steve Buscemi character.
Oh, yeah. Like, I could have seen him from the Escape from LA. Yes, I could have seen him doing some weird shit like that.
Yeah.
I feel like notice at the end, but also in the scene with the hot air balloon, of like how much money they probably blew on just being able to blow it up, because that was like one of the most cool epic effect. It was insane. I also was questioning, I'm like, would it really be that epic of an explosion? But I didn't want to question it. Like I was like, this is just too much, too long.
Because the atmosphere has less oxygen, so would it be?
Yeah. Listen, I'm not a scientist, guys. I'm going to venture to say a hot air balloon wouldn't even work on Mars. That's just my instinct as an amateur scientist. But, it's funny because the thing that I love about John Carpenter is, especially in his less pure horror themed and more kind of action adventure-y type of sci-fi stuff, he has like this very I don't mean this in a negative way. I mean it very much in a positive way. He has this like childish wonder kind of thing where he wants to put the shit 10-year-old you would want to see in a movie. He wants that in the movie, So like when you see stuff like that, you're just like, you just see the remnants of it. Really could have been something super, super fun, a la, an Escape from New York or any of those movies that kind of fall in that vein from him. But yeah, I don't know. Well, it's just kind of surprised that they couldn't pull that off in a more meaningful way. You know what I mean? It really felt like there was a time crunch involved, but I don't know. But I am kind of surprised because one of the things people say a lot about this movie is they shit all over the dialogue in this movie. Yeah. And rightfully so. A lot of it's not good, but watch Escape from New York. It's fucking terrible. The dialogue is so unbelievable, but it's Kurt Russell saying it, so everybody's like, "Oh yeah, all right," you know what I mean? Or like, I mean, the thing I was joking about at the top of the episode, like Roddy Piper walking into the bank and doing the chew bubblegum and kick ass line. It's delivered in the most awkward, silly way, and it comes out of nowhere. It doesn't call back to anything.
No, he doesn't mention
bubblegum at any other point in They Live. But it's iconic because it's so fucking bold and silly.
The scene you don't see is Roddy Piper walking down the sidewalk. Be like, oh, what am I going to say when I get in the bank? Chew bubblegum. I'm going to kick some ass, I guess.
He's giving himself a pep talk. He's going, all right, Roddy, what do you do best? Kick ass, of course. All right, now what else do you really like to do? Well, I do kind of like, I have bubblegum in my pocket. Like,
not even that. He saw a kid chewing bubblegum. And he's like, what else do I like to do?
He's just doing word association. He's like Brick from Anchorman going down the street.
bubble gum.
Okay, lamp. There's a lamp. Do I break a lamp? Do I threaten to break a lamp? Yeah, it's like these lines. They're so silly, but then they become iconic because of just the insane boldness of putting something that crazy into a movie. There's a bunch of stuff like that in this movie. It's just that like none of it really, for whatever reason, didn't catch the zeitgeist in the same way in 2001. And it feels like, I'll get into this a little bit more, but it does feel like it is symptomatic of the time in late 90s, early 2000s. Just for whatever reason, the pop culture mythos of that time was to take yourself super seriously. You know what I mean? Like that was just kind of in pop culture, being extremely, almost overtly earnest with every single thing you do, to a point where like you're very cynical about anything that isn't dead fucking serious. I think just made this stuff not land, and also influenced the performances in a way that didn't allow it to really land. Whereas like back in the 80s and certainly in movies now, because everything of course is ebbs and flows like that, right? Where I think people have the latitude to be a little silly and not take themselves super seriously and still make it fun and cool. Whereas then it was like, if you weren't dead fucking serious, it wasn't cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and just to that, like, you think 2001, that means we're 2 years removed from The Matrix.
Yeah.
And everybody on this film is probably trying to do The Matrix.
That's a great point. Didn't even think about that.
All the actors are probably trying to do The Matrix, because, like, Natasha Henstridge, she honestly didn't work that much after this film.
Yeah. And
Ice
she
Cube.
probably auditioned for The Matrix too.
Yeah.
Like probably a lot of the people in this movie did, but
yeah. Like Ice Cube, he's relatively new to film at this point, because he's done Anacondas or Anaconda. But like, you know, he's still relatively new to film. He hasn't had his big "Are we there yet?" or whatever fucking.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you had like Friday and stuff, but those are comedies, right?
And Jason Statham is obviously still trying to get his foothold, you know, in everything. So like they're all trying to give their best Matrix performance, when that's not what John Carpenter movies call for. No,
and even especially this one, where I think this was only 20 years later, and maybe it would have worked better 30 years later. But this was absolutely his callback to 80s action sci-fi. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I do like that in the 22nd century, infantry weapons are still fucking enormous. Like they're still gods, you know, they're still not God of War. What's the other video game franchise with the guys that have no necks and giant guns? Gears of War.
Gears of War. Okay.
Yeah, with the big giant guns. They're carrying the Gears of War infantry weapons. Like they not only have they not gotten smaller, like the noisy cricket has not been invented. It is they're fucking giant now, even more so than modern weapons. But
well, you see, Brian, they have to be giant because the gas has to expand to accommodate for the Mars atmosphere.
That's right. And time is slower on Mars. And yes, of course. No more explanations required. So you kind of alluded to this. Ice Cube's kind of new at this point. This is not him at his best. He's trying really hard to be that super serious, you know, tortured type of you know, anti-hero, but also kind of a heartthrob. Like he's definitely leaning into the sex appeal of the character a little bit. But there's really some laughable lines and scenes from him. And also, what's up with those fucking pants? That looks like some Hardy Boy shit that you're wearing. Like,
or my Zubaz the Mars.
Yeah, like you literally look like it's a cross between Zubaz and something like one of the Hardy Boys would wear.
Definitely.
But you learn that the spirit of these microorganisms, you know, jump from body to body when the host dies specifically. So it's like immediate. As soon as the host who is infected and is immediately like the thing that kind of delivers the kind of shock factor thing is they like immediately go into this like self-mutilation mode where they start like ripping at their skin, or they grab the first like sharp thing and start piercing their face with it and all this sort of stuff.
I just want to add a comment. As soon as they die,
that jumps to another person.
That aspect alone, I feel like, gives me the most anxiety, because I feel like that concept today probably would could be done very epically. Because it's a pretty scary concept. Like, oh, it's just never going to die and never going to go away. And there's no way you can get rid of this thing. Like, that concept. That's scary.
I mean, everyone... Friday... which Friday movie was that? 9? That they did that?
Jason Goes to Hell, where the worm fucking takes people over.
Yeah, it's kind of a similar concept. And, like, there's definitely some... The Thing, In the Mouth of Madness kind of vibes popping out here. But in those movies, you care about the characters. But that's like it's definitely got some similar themes to some of his other movies.
Strangely, it also feels like there's a game that feels almost half inspired by this called Dead Space.
Oh, yeah. I played the first one because there were multiple games in the series, right?
Yeah. There's multiple games, and there's actually 2 pretty good like animated horror movies if people want to check out.
Dead Space was a fucking scary game. I remember.
Yeah. The whole like kind of premise behind it though is like there's this weird monolith that was dug up by a mining town, and like these monoliths like infect people and turn them into these self-mutilated monsters that like, you know, you can chop their limbs off and whatever, they don't feel pain. So it's just weird. Like, I wonder if it was half inspired by Ghosts of War.
Oh, God.
Now I want to go back and replay it through that lens. Yeah, because I remember it was very much a survival horror, but incredibly tense survival horror game. Yeah. And the sound was super effective. I remember that was a great game. Yeah, I would not be surprised if you were right.
Watch the animated movies for more of the lore, because it comes off very similar. I was like, what the fuck? Yeah.
I'll have to do that. I know there were multiple games after that, but I only played the first one. So the distorted first person of the spirit thing, jumping from body in body, gets pretty old pretty quick. Like they could have done that once or twice, and they do it like feels like a dozen times. I do need to call out the severed hand bra. That's fucking sick. The one, you know, because the people of this mining town, they're all miners that were working in what did they say? I don't remember if they called out what mineral they were mining or what metal they were mining.
I don't.
But this is a mining town on Mars. All of the miners and a number of the security people and everything get taken over, and they all kind of jump into this kind of like, you know, they just pass out, and when they wake up. Some of them, just now kind of making the connection with Village of the Damned. They all pass out and wake up, and many of them are affected, not all of them. And the ones who are affected immediately start self-mutilating and killing the people who aren't affected. And they morph into this Mad Max type of environment where they all like take up arms against, you know, anyone else and create this almost like primitive tribal culture kind of thing. But one of the characters, she has clearly cut someone's hands off and turned it into like a bikini top, which I thought was sick. One of the guys who is in I believe he was a miner. He was that group of miners that were up on the hill kind of thing and got saved. Or no. They were the ones who were, they were the criminals, I'm sorry, who were with Ice Cube and his 2 kind of cronies. One of them is one of the Joker brothers from Next Friday. If you ever seen Next Friday with Mike Epps, it's genuinely a fucking really funny movie. Mike Epps, I just love Mike Epps, but they have their neighbors, they call them the Joker brothers. There's these this kind of Mexican gangsters that live next door to them, and they're scared of. And the one guy who is like huffing the drugs, and we'll talk about later, cuts his own thumb off. He is one of the Joker brothers from Next Friday. It's the only other movie I've ever seen him in. But I was like, oh shit, because we used to watch Next Friday religiously when my brother and I were little. I don't know why.
It's a funny movie. I mean,
we wore the VHS out. I mean, we literally still quote Mike Epps lines from that to this day. There's a scene in the jail cell where Natasha, I keep want to say Natasha Hargitay, but that's not where I'm getting 2 actresses mixed up. It's Natasha Henstridge when she is got them trapped in the jail cell. And they have guns and they're going to shoot her. But then she's like, no, I'm going to, you know, you're never going to get out if you shoot me kind of thing. That is honestly one of the stupidest fucking scenes in film history. Yes. You need to give me your word You know what I mean? Like she should let him out as long as like this criminal murderer is like his word means anything. Yeah. And then his response is, I never give my word. I can't even keep that. Kate and I were like belly laughing at, I never give my word. Like, what do you fucking mean? Just say yes and then let him out and then kill him. Like, what are you talking about? You're trying to escape. Why is this like these? It's almost this like old English knight type of mentality of like honor code. Like, are you fucking kidding me? It was such an incredibly stupid scene. There is also a line when one of them threatens to cut someone's fucking titties off, which I did appreciate that, and I wrote that down. I do not remember any other context besides that, but I did write it down. But let's jump right to that thumb cutting off scene, because I already mentioned it. So there is a scene where they have procured some sort of I mean, it's the equivalent of weed. Like, he's acting like he's stoned, right? Like he smoked weed, right? And he keeps inhaling this like inhaler that's getting him high. This is the one of the kind of criminal cronies of Ice Cube's character. And somebody's trying to get a can open. And he's like, hey, baby, let me open that can for you. He gets this big machete type tool that he has, and off camera puts it down the table, cuts the top off of it, and hands her the can. And he has cut his thumb off completely. Yeah. And Ice Cube is like, oh, that's fucking sick, bro. Like, that's a stupid scene.
That is my favorite scene in the whole movie, though.
I can't believe it was in there. I completely forgot about it. It got me completely as a surprise. I did not remember it at all. It's so fucking dumb, and I can't believe I didn't remember it. But
it's so dumb, but it's so hilarious. And it's like, I don't know, it's one of the few kind of like points of levity that actually work.
Yeah, but
and
it's still so bizarre. It doesn't connect to the story at all. It's so out of tone of the whole rest of the movie.
No, it doesn't connect to the rest of the movie, but I feel like it connects to like John Carpenter in general. That feels very John Carpenter.
Yes, it was for a quick second there. I was having fun again. I really enjoyed it. If they would have done more shit like that and just made things go wild and threw jokes and like levity and stuff like that in there, I would have been all over it. But instead, it just is like a weird, quirky thing that sticks out in a sea of over, self-important, over dramatic bullshit. But fast forward, they're going to escape. They have teamed up with the criminals and the security force. They go outside. They're trying to make a run for it. They're shooting, all the tribal people who have kind of been taken over by the microorganism, the Martian entity. They are kind of standing up on these hills on either side of the main kind of throughway of the town, and Ice Cube decides he's going to go rogue and just runs down there doing guns akimbo, blasting up onto the hills, and there's a bunch of carnage, people getting shot and stuff. It's kind of a fun, crazy, unrealistic action scene. But the zombies, I'm going to calling them zombies, they're not zombies, they're like whatever they are, right? The kind of tribal Martian people who've taken over the miners start throwing shit like earlier in the movie. Now, all of a sudden, they're all running down off the hill, just getting blasted, right? They're just running down the hill into a hail of bullets. And I'm like, you guys were all throwing some shit a minute ago. Why aren't you throwing shit now? And then later, they come back and start throwing shit.
They're throwing shit again.
They have these like really effective projectiles, which we'll talk about here in a minute, because maybe my favorite scene in the movie comes on the heels of that here shortly. But I guess that was my question, is like, why doesn't the organism go into every remaining human during this scene? Like, what? There are obviously enough of them to take over this whole town. Is it just that there was exactly enough of them to take over all the miners, and now the only way they can get into more people is when somebody dies in their proximity? But like, they're mowing down tons of the tribal people. Why don't they just all immediately jump into the bodies of Ice Cube and gang at this point?
I had the question too. I was like,
just like the glaring plot hole.
Because bad filmmaking, that's why.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it was so bad.
Or they were running, so they couldn't be chased.
Yeah. At this point, and I haven't even mentioned this, and if you know the movie, you might have forgot this as well. This entire movie is Natasha Henstrich's character telling this story to a like
to a magistrate.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. I was going to say it almost felt like all the procedural governmental stuff in Phantom Menace. You know, they're just like talking to this magistrate and these like this military tribunal, if you will, kind of thing. Yeah. And in this moment, I had completely forgotten that was the case, and they zoom back to her telling the story, and I'm like, this is Joe Dirt. This is just Joe Dirt telling the story of his like escapades on the radio show to Dennis Miller.
What makes that even more relevant here is like at the end when she's done telling the story, they're like, "Well, okay, aliens, ghosts," and it's just like they blow it off like it's literally nothing. You're like, it's
If I would have watched this, and if this movie happened literally just 5-6 years earlier, I think it would have been a lot of fun. Like if this happened in 94, 95, I think this would have been a blast, but it just doesn't land at all. But so you know,
I think if it happened today, it would also be better.
Yeah, absolutely. People wouldn't take it as seriously.
Right.
It wouldn't be so many like people feel like their careers are on the line. Maybe I don't know, but this is, you know, this kind of brought me back at this point too, is like, we've now learned this in 2 consecutive episodes from Midnight Mass and from this: never enter a recently unearthed ancient structure. Nothing good's going to happen. Nothing good's going to happen there. So they go down and do that, and you know, at some point, and I'm the timelines are kind of all messed up here. So I'm jumping around, but the movie doesn't deserve any better than that. But there are lots of, I wrote down, there's lots of leather, there's lots of questionable, you know, fashion for the setting. But Ice Cube's pants, this is when I noticed them, and they are like, they're a cross between something John Daly would wear after 45 Mick Ultras on the golf course and something the Hardy Boys would wear. It's right in the middle of those two. It's
after the third hole?
Yeah. Yeah. So before he tees off. Yeah. So question now. She eventually makes out with Jason Statham, Natasha Henstridge's character. Why now? Why does that happen?
I almost thought
she fucking hated him the whole time.
Right.
I legit thought that scene was going to be somehow she's like then like kicks him in the balls, you know, just to get him to fucking stop.
That's what I thought too. I thought it was going to be like a lure him in and then make a fool out of him.
And then they get distracted and they have to run away, and you're like, you are literally telling him how much you don't like him, and you're like fighting off getting hit on the entire movie. And then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, Jason, let's fucking make out.
Like, you know, real quick though. Yeah.
She even hit him with like the sickest burn too. Yeah. Because he says, you know, you want to get it on or whatever, and she says, I wouldn't do it with you if you're the last guy on Earth, but we're on Mars.
Right.
It's like, how fucking sick was that burn?
That was good. That was good.
It didn't make any sense. It was terrible.
It's so fucking dumb. Here's a part which I'm also another part I was confused about. People are getting taken over by the Martian entity microbes, right? Natasha Henstridge's character finally gets taken over, but she fights it off. But you get a glimpse. This is where you get a glimpse of, you know, the weird, you know, lizard fish people and shit. Because she gets like a quick insight as they're getting into her system. They're like taking over her brain. She gets a quick insight into like the history of their civilization or something like that. She gets Matrix downloaded, their history, and she fights it off. Are we meant to believe she does this through just like sheer will, or was it because it would have made sense it was the drugs? So is it the drugs?
Yeah, it's the drugs, because they put her. She gets taken over. They throw her body out of the building that they're hiding in, and then Jason Statham throws her drugs down her throat. So she
I missed the drug. I missed that. Then I was thinking it was because the drugs earlier.
No. It's because Ice Cube found where her like little pendant that she has.
Yeah,
but that's where she keeps her stash.
Yeah.
And Jason Statham. I keep saying Jason.
Jason Statham.
My name's Jason Statham. But Jason Statham sees the pendant and he goes, "Oh, that's where her stash is." And then for whatever reason, he just decides, give her drugs.
Yeah. Oh,
Would maybe make her not think about her about getting takeover. Maybe that was the thought. Because at the same time, that's just a stupid setup. Otherwise, unless he's literally thinking like, "Oh, I don't want her to feel pain right now, so take your drugs."
Yeah, maybe. He has no science degree at all or anything. He's just like, just throw drugs down her throat, see what happens. Yeah, go for it.
He is not a scientist.
No, Jason.
Not unlike us.
Jason Statham will never be confused with a scientist. I mean, I'm pretty sure that is fair.
I don't think there's ever been a scientist named Jericho.
Listen, Professor Jericho, you didn't have him in college? No? Okay.
Dr. Timothy Jericho? You never heard?
Unless Jericho on WWE played a scientist, he very well could have at some point or another.
he I don't know if he'd pull
He always
it off.
has a clipboard now and making the list, Maybe it could be a scientist clipboard.
That's honestly 50% of the battle becoming a scientist, just having a clipboard.
Right.
Yeah. The coat is the other 50%.
Get the coat, get the clipboard, get respect.
Yeah. First you get the coat.
That'd be a great Halloween costume. Just put scientists on it right there. That's it.
Chris Jericho as a scientist? Yeah, sure. Do that.
I like this scene as well. This is when shit's like really hitting the fan and people are dropping like flies. But I do like when they finally get into the so I'm going to jump a little bit ahead, but when they finally get into the train and start to like pull away from the station, and all of the Martian, warriors are just politely standing on the track, smacking the side of not crawling on the train, not jumping on the train, not trying to break the door down, just all politely banging their metal weapons on the side of the train. Guys, we're out here. Don't leave without us. The only one that really is like the head alien, the head Martian, who was a cool design, honestly. I thought he was kind of cool looking. I mean, he didn't need to look.
I thought he was a little bit
He,
dramatic.
did.
He just was like always yelling, and I was like,
it's a cool design, but his voice stinks.
Yeah, it was like, like he just sounded.
He
really
sounds like
silly.
Timmy from South Park.
He did a little bit.
It was so distracting. It's such a easy fix.
Yeah.
To just go into ADR and say, you know what, that doesn't sound intimidating at all.
Yeah.
Let's put monster noises instead.
Or make up a weird, Martian gibberish thing for him to yell.
I think that's what they were trying to do, but
I know, but it just didn't land. It was silly. It was very silly.
You know what's now in my head, and I don't know how I'm going to get rid of it, is watching Ghosts of Mars in my head, but with only South Park characters.
Yeah.
Like
they should do a Ghosts of Mars episode. I mean, I feel like maybe, Strike While the Iron's Hot, right? It's only 20 years later. But
they just signed a huge deal and they have to make a bunch of movies. So make one of them a Ghosts of Mars remake.
Well, and at this point, they've made their cash, so they can do whatever they want. And they seem like the kind of guys who would just say, "Fuck you, we're going to do what we want." So
right.
I'm going to really strongly suggest if we can put anything out into the universe, I would like a South Park take on Ghosts of Mars. So this is what I was talking about with the projectiles. At this point, you really start to get a close look at the Martians' ability to throw deadly frisbees, which I am fucking here for. And my favorite scene, aside from the thumb getting cut off, is Clea Duvall's character, which she is one of the most late 90s, early 2000s performers I can think of. She was in so much stuff around that time. She gets her head cut off with one, and she does this duck, shoot, and then one time she just doesn't duck and her head gets cut off with one of these razor frisbees. It was fucking hilarious. I don't know why, just the way it was it's coming in threes. Why did you only duck twice?
Right.
I don't know why. It's just it really killed.
They keep coming.
Yeah.
I love that effect too, because it was so much part practical, but also still kind of CGI to keep Clea Duvall's real head on screen.
Sure.
And it very much, a lot of the CGI effects are very similar to Cradle of Fear. Just
I can see that. I can see that.
They're you can pick them out super easy now, Like it's not seamless anymore because of how good effects have gotten, but it's just like
yeah, not good. I do love that one of the key things that the Martian organism downloaded into people's like brain and physiology is the ability to be deadly accurate with a frisbee. I like that conceit.
6 skill.
Yeah, I like that. So that got me thinking, like, were these Martian organisms like, what is their connection to Fish, like the band? Like, do they have sick hacky sack skills too? Because if they would have started kicking grenades at people, like hacky sacking and kicking grenades at people, I would have been on board for it. But they're deadly accurate with the frisbee. I like that you could see them kind of make that ultra violent, like they could have made they made them ultra violent. They could have made them like faster or stronger or whatever, but no, they just made them sick with frisbees. I don't know. I just appreciated that. My other favorite thing, which again got a laugh out loud for me, they're escaping in the train. The head, Martian killer guy with the wacky voice is on another train car. They eventually blow it up with a small nucleothermal device, this little like nuclear bomb essentially. And as they're driving away from it, it goes off and they zoom out into space and you can see the explosion from space, but not from the front window of the train.
Right.
It all stayed behind the train, but you could see it from space.
Well, they said it was only going to have a blast radius of 1 to 2 miles.
They were 150 yards away.
Right.
Did not see it out the front of the train.
I think I did the math on this because because here's the other thing I don't like about that scene is that they're fighting the zombie ghosts that have gotten onto the train. But the whole point of blowing it up is to make sure they nuke all of them. Mm-hmm. So in order for that zombie ghost that like Natasha Henstridge kicks one off like seconds before the blast goes off.
Right.
So in order for that to like stay within the blast range, the train had to be moving at like 15 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Like the whole time. It's just like, because you have to stay within the 1 to 2 mile radius, but you can't go too fast, but you can't get away from it. It's just like, this sucks.
Yeah, you didn't have to make it that giant explosion. I don't know. It was just a really poorly thought out scene.
Right. Or you didn't have to put the zombie ghosts, like at least all of them. Like, because Ice Cube disconnects half the train, which leaves the leader.
Yeah.
That's the other thing is the leader isn't the last one to die, which is kind of usual progression in films. But like he could have had him be the last one to die, and then because he disconnected the train, it stops well within that, space. But then they also have to gun the train to get out of the blast radius.
Yeah.
You don't you didn't need the last one there.
Yeah.
And I'll get into it if I don't know how much more you want to go on, Brian.
I have like a couple of other final things about this horrible ending. That's about it.
Yeah.
But it's like the last basically 2 minutes, when like Ice Cube comes in and like wakes her, like basically saves Natasha Henstridge's character from They come back to modern times, right? Or the present day. And not modern times. It's 2176.
2021 Mars.
Yeah. But they come back to the contemporary, beginning of the story timeline. And things have started to hit the fan now. These Martian, microorganisms, whatever they are now taking over the base that she has now been saved and is in because she was found as the last survivor of that train. Ice Cube got away. He has now come back for her to save her. And now they have somehow formed some incredible bond that they did not earn at all in the movie. That was never built to a point of like, why do they have this incredible bond? In fact, I would go as far as to say Ice Cube and Natasha Henstridge's character have some of the worst chemistry of any two people on screen of all time. But now they are a alien fighting duo till they die. And this last 2 minutes is like this shameless attempt of being a Snake Plissken level kind of cheese to it, and it would have made sense if it was that, but they played it way too straight. But we talked about before we start recording the last scene, which is literally Ice Cube breaks the fourth wall and mugs and winks to the camera as the credits roll, is unfucking forgivable. It's such a horrible ending.
So terrible.
It's
so
not
bad.
just it's not the worst ending of any movie of all time, but it might leave the worst taste in your mouth of any movie ending of all time. And it was like, there were moments in this movie where I was like, this isn't as bad as I thought it was. If I view it through the lens of like an 80s sci-fi cheese fest, okay, whatever, just with 2001 nu metal soundtrack. But that last scene is just you can't leave this movie happy after you see that closing scene. It's just so fucking awful.
And you know what else it reminded me of? It reminded me of the ending of the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Oh, I don't even remember it.
If you barely remember it, it's they obviously get back to New York, the Mario and Luigi Mario.
Yeah.
And
I love that that's where that came from.
Yeah.
Because I told my kids that, because we love like Luigi's Mansion and stuff. And I told them, it came up on a trivia thing we were doing. What is Mario's last name? Mario and Luigi's last name?
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, they don't have a last name. I was like, no, they have a last name. It's Mario and Luigi Mario. And Kate, my wife, argued. She was like, you're full of shit. She thought for sure I was making it up. I was like, I'm telling you.
This
canon.
is all new information for me right now.
Yeah.
You're
It's
witnessing
canon.
me
It's
learning
canon.
things. That's
well, it looks like Meg also has to go watch the Mario Brothers movie. But the end of that movie is Princess Peach kicks down their door. She has a giant gun in her hand.
My God, I forgot.
And she goes, "You'll never guess what's going on." And that's exactly what Ice Cube does. He kicks open Natasha Henstritz's door, has a gun for her, has a gun for himself. He's like, "Looks like we're back at it again." It's like,
that classic team
fucker.
of Ice Cube and Natasha. Everyone knows it.
Yeah.
But like that is the thing that is the most egregious part, even almost as bad as the wink and the mug to the camera, is when he goes like, says something about, looks like we're gonna have to kick some alien ass, and she's like, that's what we do best. And I'm like, why are you guys the fucking dynamic duo now?
Yeah.
Like, you haven't earned this relationship. This didn't happen in the script. You know what I mean? And also, why are their guns chrome? Why are they so shiny chrome? I don't know.
But also,
such
like,
a bad ending.
They're super ineffective too, because it's still going on.
Yeah, they didn't do a good job. It's
Right.
not like you wiped them off the planet.
Yeah.
And also, everyone else died but you guys. Like, you did a bad job.
Yeah. You're not
you
ass
did
kickers.
a bad job.
You
This
just
is probably
survive.
Yeah, you barely survived by the skin of your fucking teeth. This is just like, this script probably reads as something really fun. It's probably reads as this like sci-fi horror schlock fest that sounds really fun. Like I said, just no one told the performers.
Right.
And maybe that is a shortcoming of John Carpenter's directing. I don't know. But they weren't in the same movie that he wrote
Right.
or laid out,
Yeah.
So it was just, I think honestly, it'll probably age fairly well. I could see this being like kind of a cult classic in 10, 20 years from now. Not age well and make it a better movie. I mean, in the way it's received. You know what I mean?
I don't think so. It's
Yeah.
too fucking boring.
I was curious, what in your mind like makes it seemingly going that way, just because it's so bad, because I could see that.
Yes,
like
it'll be so bad it's good. It will start to get that so bad it's good kind of mentality where like now we're just getting to the point now where we're far enough away from it that people are saying they like it. In 10 years from now, I could see people going, "Oh, it's fucking great." Because it's the same thing with I remember when I was a kid and I was 12 years old and I loved Halloween. People used to talk the same way about Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. They used to say like, it's the fucking worst movie of all time. Like it's horrifyingly bad. And then like 10 years ago, people started going, but it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And now fast forward 10 years and it's like one of the most popular horror movies in existence now.
Yeah.
Like it feels that way.
Yeah, I mean, you're totally right about that, but I think a lot of that hate came from the fact that it didn't have Michael Myers in it. Yeah, I
for
think,
sure. That was a big thing, right? Yeah.
So I think people just
people
weren't
thought
able
the bait and switch was part. Yeah.
Yeah, so but that movie still has like a lot of legitimate fun to it and is like a good movie.
Yeah.
This one it's too fucking boring. It's too like there's not enough of those thumb cutting scenes.
Yeah.
And you have to wade through so much shit to get to the thumb cutting scene and like the saw blade stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it just
It just doesn't have enough in it, maybe.
Yeah.
And the plot doesn't make sense, obviously. It's fucking really truly doesn't.
Yeah. The plot is silly. It doesn't make sense. And I think the thing I pulled from this that is actually the worst is the editing. And you're talking about like John Carpenter's directing as far as like, you know, maybe he just wasn't able to get it across. I think something happened and he was just like tapped out.
He might have. He might have just said, guys, this isn't. Yeah. He seems like the kind of guy who would just say like, this isn't what I want, and so I don't want to be responsible and walk away from it. But he's obviously under contract, and his name's above the title. But
yeah, I think he tapped out before they even started filming because he wasn't able to get what he wanted, which was probably Escape from Mars. But like he just let all of this like terrible shit go, especially in the editing. Yeah, and I did more looking into it because the editing is so bad for me. Yeah, because we already mentioned how the way the story is structured. She's telling this story to a tribunal, and they keep cutting back to it, and there's nothing that puts the brakes on action more than cutting back to something that isn't action. Just sitting in a room telling a story.
I feel like they wanted that to be more tense. Yeah, but no one was tense except for Natasha Henstridge.
Right. Yeah. Right. And just in general storytelling, you don't need to do that. Like set it up at the end, and then you have the bookend for the ending, which is what you want. But you don't need to keep cutting back to it. The other editing craziness is like all those weird Star Wars wipes and fades. Yeah. And
you could tell that was like there was stuff that you're like you can tell he's trying to do a throwback type of thing.
Yeah. But it doesn't look good. And then there's like a lot of crossfades mid-action just to advance a scene. There's a lot of slow motion for no reason. Yeah. Which also makes an action scene boring. Do you think maybe they got the first
version of iMovie?
Maybe.
I think they
Final Cut. Those are like literally
Final Cut 2 or something.
Like all of the fucking transitions. We gotta use them all, guys.
I just feel like they had a concept. And just the performances, no one was on board with the concept except for Carpenter and the people he could directly influence. Yeah. You know what I mean?
So I went even a little further, though. I looked into the editor.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. He has 3 editing films that he's done. Mm-hmm. This was the first film he edited, then some indie thing, and then an episode of a TV show. Everything else he was the assistant editor on. He got his start actually as the assistant editor on Child's Play 2 and 3.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah.
So and then he also worked on like Body Bags, Mouth of Madness, Village of the Damned. So he worked with Carpenter in the past, and then I guess Carpenter just put him in charge of editing. But like being an assistant editor and an editor can be 2 completely different jobs. Okay. Like an assistant editor it depends on, your level of responsibility, but like an assistant editor mostly just collects and marks all the clips for the editor.
Okay. So you're not doing the heavy lifting typically.
Right. You're not usually doing the heavy lifting. You're just kind of finding like you're marking like this is the best clip. This might be the second best clip. You kind of look at this, put it together.
You are creating the mise en place, if you will,
more or less
for the editor.
Yeah. You're basically a sous chef in a way. For that.
That's interesting. I didn't. That's great insight. I would never have known that. Yeah, he didn't. He was not up for the task, obviously.
No. And then obviously not because after that he never worked as an editor again. Yeah. He still works like as an assistant editor on a handful of TV shows.
Interesting.
But like nobody, I wouldn't. Nobody trusts this guy to edit their film.
Yeah. You just didn't care about any of the characters in this movie at all. Like the only one that I even cared about a little bit, and it's 100% just goodwill from me loving her from other movies, is Pam Grier's character. When she died early on, that was the only one that was even mildly effective because it was kind of a good practical effect with her head on a pike kind of thing. Yeah. But it was also like, I kind of wanted more Pam Grier. So I kind of mourned her loss because I wanted to see her a little bit more. But otherwise, you didn't care about anyone at all. Overall, and this is my summation, I am not going to vote for this movie. This is going to be the first time somebody does not vote for their own movie. Obviously, I didn't pick this movie, so I don't feel too bad about that. But if they would have leaned into the silliness of the premise and just took some bigger swings and had more thumb chopping off type of scenes, right? This could have been the type of flick that has a huge cult following or was poised to have a huge cult following. But it feels like they got caught up in that, late 90s, like I said, kind of everyone needs to take themselves super seriously, Matrix-ish type of mentality, which you described well. And just like no one is earnest enough to pull off the absurd confidence of a Snake Plissken in this movie. Right. Like it's like I said, it's just too late 90s jaded, snarky type of mentality that everyone has. But it just doesn't play well, for an otherwise film that you should have leaned into the absurdity a little bit more. Like they're just too cool for school.
You could literally remake this movie today though. And it would be everything that you want because Jason Statham and Ice Cube have that backing. Natasha Henstridge, she can do whatever because, I don't know, it's her shot back. Like you can reinvigorate her the way Pulp Fiction did for John Travolta.
It was supposed to be a throwback thing. I just think maybe it was a little bit too soon to throw back to that stuff. Because the next generation hadn't really caught on to the things like in 2001, I think when this movie came out, I was 15 or 16 years old. I wasn't watching Predator with the level. Like I watched Predator when it first came out. Like when I was younger, I loved that stuff. But like I wasn't nostalgic for that stuff yet. You know what I mean? It almost was like it was like 10 years too early. But like if they would have leaned in more heavily and made it sillier and made it I'm not saying like go all the way to like Mars Attacks level, but like if they would have leaned into that type of stuff more, it would have been so much better. And I think Carpenter kind of wanted to a certain extent, but he just forgot to send out the memo, to the performers kind of thing. That's Ghost of Mars, guys. We freaking watched it. We tolerated it. I didn't hate every second of it. I hated the movie, but like the experience, the experience wasn't
like I told you guys,
as painful as other movies I've watched, but
like I told you guys, as soon as it stopped and got to cut to the credits, I just audibly just started laughing. I don't know why. Just something part of the ending. I was just like, I can't believe I just watched that too. There's like a little bit of that.
You can't believe you sat through all that to have Ice Cube wink at you.
That honestly, that's the thing is like, it was like a poorly made, poorly constructed sandwich that someone handed to you and you were like, this is questionable. But
it's a sandwich that actually falls apart in your hand pretty much.
Well, I was going to say, instead of a pickle on a toothpick they put in the end, they put a dog turd right on top and just said, here you go.
That's yours.
And you were like, I didn't like this and was not excited about it, but now that you put a dog turd on it the second before I went to eat it, now fuck this sandwich. That is how that was the last 2 minutes of this movie. So, fuck it. Before we jump into who's going next? Meg's going next.
Meg's going next,
right? Do you guys want to take a little breaky break real quick, and then we'll jump into movie number 2?
Sure.
All right, we'll be right back, guys. With a little Village of the Damned.
Let's open up this pit.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back. We are about to jump in. Actually, we all took a quick bathroom break, refreshed our drinks. I put on a cardigan. I also grabbed some Bud Light Seltzer toasted marshmallow. I refilled my coffee cup of pumpkin. I'm living that fucking cozy boy pumpkin
You know what? Those
spice
seltzers might be great in coffee. They might be great mixed with coffee.
Well, Steve and I were just talking about
like some espresso.
I'd rather die, but I appreciate the suggestion. Steve and I. Steve and I were just talking about this mixed pack. This variety pack is a minefield because the apple, it's called like crisp apple or something. I forget. It's fine. Totally serviceable. I'm not a seltzer drinker typically either, but Kate really likes seltzers, so she was like, "Oh, we got to do the fall seltzer pack." Okay, so we get it. The pumpkin spice one. The three of us were texting last night. It tastes like a fucking candle. It's bad. Steve has warned me that the pear, the maple pear is shit. I'm gonna save that for Steve's movie. I'm gonna do that one last. and I'm about to crack the toasted marshmallow. But listen, I'm living that cozy boy life. I'm looking out the window. Leaves are falling. I'm looking at my bats out on my trees with the falling leaves. I'm feeling real autumnal right now.
We are recording on the perfect fall day as far as it's getting chilly. It is rainy. It's dark. I really want to be under a blanket right now.
It was a beautiful fall weekend.
I'm surprised also. This kit popped in my head when you started talking about the seltzers, is that I'm surprised Budweiser hasn't done a commercial for those seltzers where each sip you get like more fall like. I don't know if you've seen these TikToks where it's like one day after listening to blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. And I could just see it's like Brian comes back and he's now in a sweater.
Yeah. Come back next time. I've got one of those big round hats.
Yeah.
And I've completed my full transition into Ashley, ASHLEE.
Yeah,
have you seen that meme where like that's like the new, like the Karen or Chad and Karens, they're talking like the new like fall version of Chad and Karen is Ashley, ASHLEE. And you've got like the boots, the cardigan and not a cardigan, a poncho. That would be the Ashley move.
Poncho or vest.
Yeah.
I don't know if I told you guys in the text message last night. I can't remember with that show I was at last night, which was amazing. But like I witnessed a like heavy metal pit to someone playing the banjo and kazoo.
You texted
and it
that
was
last
the
night.
most epic thing ever.
I'm still wrapping my brain around it 12 hours later.
It worked.
It didn't read correctly to me either at first because I read it as banjo and kazooie. And I'm like, that's weird.
Everyone's just hunkered around the PlayStation.
Yeah.
Playing banjo and kazoo.
Okay.
Yeah.
They opened for Crash Bandicoot.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And then actually at like 1 a.m., Spyro the Dragon did like a surprise show set at 1 a.m.
He did a DJ set.
Spyro the Dragon would be a DJ.
Yeah.
Dude, I fuck with Spyro though. In any case, as a transition, we are on to the second movie of our October Showdown, which when we don't get to pick our own movies, as we mentioned, the roulette wheel picked these movies for us. We are much more cordial to one another.
We are. I don't think there's going to be yelling this time.
It's less attacking. It's less arguing because it's kind of like the chips fall where they lie. Or it's because my movie we knew didn't have a fucking chance. And Steve's shaking his head yes right now. And now we're about to get into the meat of the issue. Fast forward 20 minutes.
I don't know.
And Meg and Steve are going to be punching each other in the
Here's the
face.
thing. We knew that Brian wasn't going to win.
Yeah.
Brian knew that Brian wasn't going to win.
I didn't have a horse in the fight.
Yeah. My job as the
horse
champion.
You know horse boxing matches, right?
Right.
You know that old adage from horse boxing.
I get it. Yeah. I get it. Yeah. But as the champion, it's my job to convince Brian that my film is the best and Meg's is the worst.
Right.
This is a 2-horse boxing match.
I think that's going to be pretty difficult at this point, Steve.
Classic one-on-one, falls count anywhere, no holds barred. Horse boxing match. Yeah,
this is almost like when they have a wrestler come be the referee. That's what this feels like right now.
Yeah. Right now, Brian is Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, or Mike Tyson. Remember when Mike Tyson was the that was
Didn't
a Shawn
Stone
Michaels
Cold
match.
Referee a match at some
Stone
point?
Cold
I feel like
Stone Cold has refereed a number of matches, I believe.
I think
Stone
that's
Cold
what you
refereed
should
the
be.
match that Donald Trump was in.
Oh yes,
God.
I forgot about that. Jesus Christ.
I'm now upset.
The biggest blemish in the history of the WWE. That's not true. There's many blemishes.
Yeah.
But listen, we're not here to talk about wrestling, although we should do a wrestling episode soon.
Sure.
We are here to talk about 1995's Village of the
Village
Damned.
of the Damned. So, as we already established, Village of the Damned is a remake of Wolf. How would you say his last name? Ria, or Rilla? You know, I want to say
I think probably. I don't know.
Of the same name from 1960, and then this is based off John Wyndham's novel, The Midwich Cuckoos. So, I really walked away from this movie being like, this movie itself reminds us why children are terrible and awful, and we need to put them all on their own island forever and ever until
my kids, you guys can't see because you're facing here, but on the other side of my screen, my children are standing at the door staring at me right now, wide-eyed, glowing red eyes.
They're making you drink that seltzer right now.
That's
specifically
what
the
That's what they choose to make Daddy do, is drink booze. But before we jump into this, because it's an opening scene, can we just have a real quick moment of silence for the helicopter photography industry? Because I imagine drones have decimated it.
Yes.
Every time I see a scene at the beginning of a helicopter shot at the beginning, I'm like, this thing costs like 10 grand.
Right.
And somebody was rolling in cash and is no longer.
But it is only like if you're shooting on 8K, I think. I don't know that drones have gotten to 8K.
Okay.
But you have to shoot those you have to shoot like crazy formats that need a helicopter. Like if Tarantino decided to shoot 70 millimeter, I think he still needs a helicopter for that. Other than that, it's over.
He seems like the kind of guy who would insist on a helicopter, to be honest with you. But sorry,
Well,
to completely derail you before you even start.
I know this is going to happen the whole time. It's fine.
Oh,
It's
you've
good.
been here before? We've met?
No, you guys help me out, I think, sometimes. So, Village of the Dam. Basic synopsis: a small town's women give birth to unfriendly alien children posing as humans, which I really don't think posing is even the right word, because there's nothing posing. Like, they're not
doing a good job of posing.
They're not. Yeah. We know clearly they're pretty fucked up. So we pretty much start out with the movie. Everyone in the city who's in the city limits, let's be real, something comes over them, basically almost in like a translate state. Everyone passes out, which I don't know if you guys noticed. Obviously we see it later, but one thing I think I mentioned that you guys might have missed was that before you realize that one man who fell on the grill, like, was on the grill, that was like one of the first things I was like, did a dude just fall on the grill and they're just like breezing over that right now? Did he
Did you see it before the reveal of his
I noticed
corpse?
I saw him like fall on it, and I was like, wait, that's good. I don't know if that's going to be a thing, but I'm glad they came back to it, honestly.
Yeah, dang, I didn't even notice it. And I think this is only the second time I've seen this movie, but it's the first time I've paid attention to it, I feel like, because I remembered. Never mind. I'm getting ahead of myself. Go ahead.
Oh, no, it's fine.
I was going to say I remembered liking it, but...
Boom. So we're basically the beginning. We're getting ready for this big festival. We're getting introduced to some of the characters, which the whole lineup is pretty stacked in ways. Like, Mark Hamill, which I'm also kind of curious how he ended up in this whole mix,
weird.
which is
he
great.
Was in a bunch of weird shit this time. I mean, he was in the freaking, he was in body bags. The John Carpenter. Oh gosh, what's the
Showtime?
Word? It was Showtime,
series.
but it was a.
It's like an anthology series.
Anthology. Jesus Christ, I couldn't think of the word anthology. Yeah, he starred in one of the vignettes in an anthology called Body Bags that John Carpenter has the greatest wraparound performance of any anthology. I love me some Mark Hamill, dude. I'm always on board
I
for
thought he
Mark
was great
Hamill.
in this too. I thought he did a great job as the Reverend and whatnot. So
I was just gonna say we're right at his resurgence, because he had just started playing the Joker on the animated series.
Yeah, the greatest voice acting
he
performance
did so good.
fucking of all time.
Oh, yeah.
He's so good. He acts his fucking balls off in everything. I love it. He chews the shit out of the scenery. He reminds me a little bit of a Jeffrey Combs type. You know what I mean? Jeffrey Combs is like one of my favorite actors of all time, and I feel like I like them both for similar reasons.
Well, going into, so we have Kirstie Alley, which we meet in just a short bit. So after everyone basically passes out and everyone's crashing into shit, the basically government is called in, and Kirstie Alley is leading as Dr. Susan Werner, she's leading the charge and trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. And then we also meet Alan. How would you say his last name? The Christopher Reeve's character.
Oh, I didn't even...
Chaffee.
Chaffee.
I feel like there needs to be an accent.
Listen, guys, I'm not an expert, but I guarantee it's not Chuffy. But can we call him Chuffy?
Yeah.
Is it Chuffy?
That sounds like I had a stuffed animal growing up named Chubbles, and I feel like Chuffy would have been like Chubbles' pet.
Chuffy and Chubbles.
Yeah.
Chuffy and Chubbles. That's pretty great.
It's so weird to see Christopher Reeves without jet black Superman hair. I don't know why. It's just so strange.
Yeah.
Chaffy, not Chuffy, Chaffy.
Chaffy.
You're always Chuffy to me. That's the song. That's a song I'm going to write immediately as soon as we're done with this episode.
Basically, as the government's in trying to be like, what the fuck's going on? All of a sudden, people start waking up. And within like, a month or two, basically we find out that all the women who were like in this trance are now pregnant. So clearly they've been impregnated by some, we have to assume alien character at this point. So, and all like when Chrissy Alley's character comes in, she's like, basically you guys can terminate this, which at the time I feel like is a pretty bold move for a movie, which I'm curious to see how the 1960s, like I'm curious how they handled that scene.
Yeah.
But like basically being like, you can terminate it or you can keep it and we'll do experiments and we'll give you a bunch of money.
The way she puts across the termination though, she's like, we'll have a medical team in here tomorrow. As it sounds like they're bringing in like vans upon vans to just do mass abortion.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Her bedside manner could use some work. I will say that.
Yeah.
But I think it worked to really establish how ruthless her character really is. Like, she does not give a shit about anyone. She's like, you can tell, I want the experiments. No.
You can tell from 50 yards she gives zero fucks because she's got about 4-inch shoulder pads. And she is here to fuck shit up. That is all there is to it.
Is her hair or her shoulder pads?
Also, she's smoking everywhere.
Oh, yeah. She's smoking in the hospital.
What is she even smoking?
She's smoking like Ginny Slims in like everywhere she goes.
She like delivers a baby and then just like ashes on the side.
Ashes on the placenta. Puts her cigarette out on the placenta.
Yeah.
For anybody who's probably like younger than 25 listening to this right now, before eating the apple was a bad guy trope, we just had everybody smoke. Yeah. And whoever was smoking was the bad guy.
Yeah, you're the bad guy. That's how you know. Right. If you don't have like blatantly pointed inward eyebrows, you're smoking.
You're smoking.
Yeah.
Gotta know.
Or sharp teeth. If you have sharp teeth, or you're smoking.
Sharp teeth, yeah. Jaws, Ghosts of Mars, both sharp teeth. That's what we know the bad guy.
I love how they had it so narrowed down to where the line is that once you walked inside the line of where the phenomenon was happening, you just passed out, went to sleep. Yeah. So much so that they actually painted a line on the ground. And I wanted to be like, you guys have caution tape, right? Like that was invented back then. Did you really have to bring in a crew to paint a line? Seemed aggressive, especially considering... that paint's going to take a while to dry. Do you really think this is going to go on? It's only been 6 hours. I don't know why you have to paint a line, but yeah, I guess.
That's an interesting observation.
Sorry, the line just for some reason really stuck with me, guys.
So getting back to this, all the women decide to keep the children. So Christopher Reeve's character is basically now taking care of them along the way, along with Susan Werner, and then I feel like they definitely do a fast pace, but I always found it very interesting in how like calculated. It's like, okay, well now we're all just going to the hospital to have these babies. Now we're all driving together. Like I found that very interesting in the way they're setting up and how calculated this whole situation was for, their pregnancies and stuff.
Can we talk real quick about the church scene when Kirstie Alley is telling them that she's going to give them the option to have abortions or pay them thousands of dollars to have the kids and do experiments on it? Yeah. I love the preacher, Mark Hamill's character, what he basically tells the crew. And it's a great classic town hall, rubble, kind of scene. But he's like, science can't help us, but God can. He's like giving this whole thing. And I'm like... And I think to myself, God, like, the guy who did this to us, like,
Right.
and I wrote down, as Psalms tells us, turn to your abuser for answers. Like, it's just like I wanted to hear the rest of his sermon because he wasn't doing a strong setup at all.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like if this were a midnight mass setup, this is exactly, they definitely would have been totally Jesus through and
Yeah,
through.
I got
That-
midnight
yeah.
mass vibes for sure
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found it. I actually really like this movie, so I'm gonna keep going.
No, I thought it was
Yeah.
fun. It's just it falls apart a little bit later on, but I did like the woman who just screams, "They'll all be deformed."
Right. That is just so hilarious and like
I
indicative.
laughed hard at that.
I did too. It's so indicative of like our current times, even.
I know.
Of
it
just
felt-
like somebody with no medical degree just yelling shit out,
Yeah.
and then they had to tell her like somebody
But
with
they
a
did their
science
own
degree.
research, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, she did her own research and knew the babies were going to be deformed.
They're all
And then-
gonna be deformed.
And then Christopher
Like,
Reeve,
yeah.
who's the medical doctor, has to come up and go, "That's not true.
I'm
do you
a
do-
doctor. You're an
Yeah.
idiot.
I've been looking at the progress of the babies. They're fine. What are you doing?"
And then
Yeah.
the one guy who's like really psyched because his wife and daughter are pregnant, and he's like,
Oh, it's like,
"Cha-ching!" Like when he says $6,000, he's like, "All
He-
right, put
Eyebrow
sunglasses
raise.
on."
He's like, yeah, you're gonna keep that baby, eh? Yeah.
That's a lot of motherfucking money in 95.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
no,
This
for
is just
sure.
such a fucking fun scene. I loved the town hall, meeting. But,
Yeah, and I think establishing that the daughter is actually a virgin too is just like the same time is totally feeding into this like, oh my god, this is a spiritual, she is now the Virgin Mary type thing. You know?
oh yeah,
Mhm.
you could see him go in that direction real fast.
Which I think there's certain things they didn't lean into that they probably could have. And I think also the way they did the timeline, because we kind of know that this is somewhat of like this like alien situation going on, is that I wasn't totally clear with like, is the time like a normal pregnancy time, or did everything just kind of keep going happen? Like, are they growing up faster than the average
That's
child?
a question that Kate had too. And I was like, I know in the original movie time passes,
Okay.
and they show time pass here, but they don't do a good job of showing like how quick time passes. They definitely
Sure.
show
Right.
the kids develop quicker,
Right.
but like years pass.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But they don't really set up like that years.
Yeah, they
are in
develop
fact
mentally
passing.
quicker, but like, are they
Yeah.
actually just aging from like 1 year to 5 years within, a couple months? Yeah.
Right. And I'm not trying to like destroy my chances of winning here because I still liked mine the most. Steve.
Fucking
But-
Steve.
Fucking Steve. But because I think these children were so dangerous that I feel like if time did pass, then almost the entire town would probably be dead at that point. You know what I mean? Because of
Yeah.
how many people
Right.
they killed when they were focusing on the children.
Yeah, I do think that several years have passed. Like, I do
Yeah.
think they develop quick, but like not insanely quickly. Mentally they do, but like physically,
Yeah.
Yep.
5-6 years have passed.
Yeah.
I feel like it would make more sense though if only a couple months passed, because
Yeah.
then you couldn't acclimate to the kids being so fucking shitty.
Yeah.
I feel like there has to be like a year 3
Yeah,
where one
they
of them gets out of
understand.
line, and
Yeah.
they get spanked for getting out of line because it's still the 90s,
Right.
and then they kill that person, and you go, oh, they kill people.
Yeah,
we
they
have to kill
breezed
them.
over a lot of that stuff, and just
Yeah.
like they breezed
definitely
over the
focus on
fact that
who-
they all shop at the same Gap that only sells gray things. like a lot of that stuff, like they just kind of like, oh, we have come to accept. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They go to
So-
Costco and they buy skirts in bulk. What are you complaining about?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we go pretty much, I think the next significant point is when all the children are being born, and the girl that was a virgin, which I actually don't know why I didn't think about it until we were sitting here talking, and I'm kind of like mentally wrapping my head around stuff, is that I'm curious if there was something to do with because she was a virgin that like her body couldn't really maintain that child or whatever. I don't know if it seemed like it was supposed to be significant in ways just because like, oh, now we have this one child that like one alien baby that just isn't now born, and we obviously know why that's important later.
Kirstie Alley's like, we got a dead one here. Like, she just, like, again, her bedside manner leaves a lot to be desired.
Terrible.
Yeah. And then she puts it in a Burger King bag and runs outside.
Wrap it up. Yeah, so we understand later she's actually watching it mature and grow because it's still like, it is definitely a lot bigger. So I'm curious why it's also growing, but we'll get to that. Cool.
Oh, when it's in the tank. Yeah.
Yeah, it is bigger. Yeah, it's bigger. So again, we kind of established that there definitely is time that's gone by. And we really focus first on Barbara, which is Christopher Reeve's wife, and Mara. So we learn that she's basically like the leader of the pack here. She's the one who's kind of overseeing everything, making sure everyone stays in line and protecting all of the other children. And she goes right into figuring out how to fuck these people's day up. And she's like learning how to control people, which that like freaked me out. So the scene that I'm referring to is Mara's in her high chair and the mom is boiling water or soup or something.
She's making it an enormous pot of carrot broth, as we all do. Like, that's a normal thing. She's cutting carrots, throwing them into a giant 4 gallons of boiling water.
And Mara makes her put her hand in it because she's upset about this, which that was like one of the few times where you could tell, like, nothing, like, I don't think Barbara like did anything to Mara, but she's just like, oh, I can control you, so I'm actually going to do something super evil. Whereas I think over time they established that if you try to hurt us, we're going to hurt you. And that's survival. Didn't
she give her like a taste of soup and the soup was too hot for the baby or something?
Yeah. I took it as, because she threw her like bowl of something on the ground.
Yeah.
But I took it as she was just learning like the sensory elements of like something being hot and felt that. And they were trying to demonstrate this idea that like they have no empathy. They just are figuring out the world around them. You know what I mean? And this whole idea of like something being hot. And she thought maybe that she gave them something hot on purpose. I'm not entirely sure. But then
she
of
took
course,
it as just like, it's like a threat, like almost if like you're coming near, it's just they almost remind me of like maybe some sort of like beehive of sorts, because they kind of all have the same like mind.
They have the hive
they
mind
describe,
going.
Yeah. So it's like if one starts getting hurt in any way or is threatened, it's like, okay, focus on here and we're gonna fucking fuck you up. So I found that interesting, like how much they focused on like Barbara's relationship with Mara, and like even to the point where Barbara's just now super traumatized by this whole situation. And Mara did in theory like control her to then go commit suicide and jump off the cliff. Like, but it wasn't like, also one of the few scenes where they weren't in super close proximity to do that control.
I took it as she was already considering it, and she kind of not physically speaking, but pushed her over the edge kind of thing to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's how I took it.
Yeah, I just kind of took it actually as like Barbara just like knew something was totally up and then like went and killed herself. But like Mara was able to read her mind as she was killing herself. And then that's like after Barbara jumps, you get that weird like baby in the sky. And
that was a weird overlay. That was a weird scene.
And then, but then the baby goes to sleep soundly. She's like, oh, Mama's dead. Hell yeah.
Well, then she... Hell yeah, because she's kind of got this grin on her face, and then she's kind of closes her eyes, then opens back up, and then the look on her face is, oh hell yeah, and then she just back to sleep.
It just goes back to sleep. It's like, Mama's dead. Hell yeah, I got that bitch.
Yeah.
Oh, it was such a weird scene. That kid's face is creepy too, just with even without the weird white hair wig. Yeah, that was just a creepy child, to be honest with you.
Definitely. So now we're flash forward a little bit more, where you can tell this doctor, Christopher Reeve's character, is like completely distraught and like very dissociated in ways from the child, and just knows that like that child did something, but doesn't really have the proof because nothing physically is happening. But is very clearly distraught and just doing whatever the child wants him to do. And then we really focus more on one of the teachers and the mother of David. And we start seeing David's character like showcase levels of like empathy when he understands that like feeling something's missing from his life, and which is the baby that ended up dying when it was born. And I kind of like how they keep continuing his character, but I think there could have been more explained or just established to really understand how is he actually developing this empathy besides just that, like learning it, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't think, I think there's something there.
Yeah,
it could be more, but
you wonder whether he has kind of gathered that via osmosis a little bit, or whether it was something that he learned based on the fact that the one baby that was stillborn of the alien babies was, they keep alluding to the fact that it was meant to be like his partner being, kind of, and whether that has something to do with why he's developing empathy and the rest of them aren't. You don't really get clarity.
Maybe he has
on
the
that.
word now for how he, like, because he definitely, you can tell, like, they established something's missing. Like, he knows that there's like almost as if it was a physical, literal thing. Something's missing from him.
Yeah. Something's missing, and it also could be like because he doesn't have that other partner. Like the other partner is not there to reinforce his own thought patterns.
Sure.
So he's more open to other thought patterns because he doesn't have the reinforcement of the hive structure.
Yeah. So
he doesn't have that one-to-one connection to the hive mind as much.
Yeah, and so Barbara wants, I think Christopher Reeve's character's name, Alan, wants him to like step in and maybe try to help teach these kids. And he was just like, no, fuck this. They're a lost cause. They're evil. Like, and everyone in the town pretty much thinks this, and they see that.
Yeah, at that point, like they have all resigned themselves to the idea that these kids are going to kill us one day. Like they are all
they're
kind
going
of
to take
captive
over
of them at this point.
Yeah, they're very terrified of them. And so, but it was in that interaction with David where he was like, maybe there's something here that I can like step in and help do. So he does go into trying to teach them. And again, this is where we learn or see another murder. They, like I said, I'm surprised the entire town isn't already dead because of how often we see them killing people at this point. But maybe because they also realize that now they're just getting pushed to a point of like, we're so angry at you. Because I think that's kind of what's happening too. It's like everyone's just at their wits' end. Like these children are clearly showing or the signs that they're fucking evil, and nothing's going to change that. So now they're just like, fuck it, I'm going to like poke you with a stick. Like literally like going up to a beehive and like,
well,
okay,
you know,
well,
and listen,
you're going to jump on that stick now and die.
This custodian at the school was the guy who we were introduced early on, who was, when he wanted to sneak away and get drunk, was just hanging out in the kids' classroom.
It's so weird.
Like, he's not shown a ton of good judgment, but
no,
very
not
true.
at all.
Yeah,
very true. And he's clearly very drunk when he gets killed.
And it's like if you're on the trip of that, you're going to like yell at these kids and carry on when you know they're murderers. Like, why wouldn't you just go all the way after he smacked the kid in the face? Like, he smacked the kid in the face and then just stopped and like, oh no, I'm in trouble. It's like, nah, at that point you have to be willing to go all the way. Like, do what you can because you're obviously dead now.
Yeah.
Like,
if you're convinced they are, I took it as like he had enough booze in him to speak up about what he was thinking was the reality, you know, with his suspicions. But then when it push comes to shove, he was like, but what if they're just regular weird kids, you know, kind of thing. But he gets it pretty good.
Yeah. And the only thing I want to like miss in there too is like, it's seemingly like besides them getting like special treatment for their actual just education, Susan Varner, she is continuously bringing them in to do studies on them and to kind of see how they're developing. And in watching her interactions, she is specifically like behind the scenes. She knows how to control her mind, so she knows how to work with them. She knows that this is like a huge thing for the government, so she's like definitely feeding the government agencies that are giving her money like, hey, no, this is huge, give us more money, we want to keep studying these kids. But it's all for like, she's not trying to help protect anyone. She is simply just like, this is gonna be huge, this is gonna be crazy, not only for my career but also for studies and stuff like that. So she definitely has ulterior motives, and It's interesting.
Yeah, it was funny because like there was like I think it's a scene between her and Christopher Reeve, and he's like confronting her about those ambitions, and like she casually drops the MK Ultra program, and like it's like we know the CIA gives people LSD without their knowledge, and it's like we do know that, but we knew that then.
Yeah, she's just like, you have that level of clearance, right? Oh,
like, you know about the MK Ultra program, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and then also in one of the days they're studying and they're checking the eyes, that's where we see the eye doctor basically. She basically just gets turned blind because she accidentally puts the wrong drops in one of the kids' eyes, and she just freaks out. And so they're like, now you're getting them.
In the kid's defense, as an eye doctor, the one thing you want to avoid doing is destroying people's eyes. So
I like how you said that like as if you're an eye doctor.
Yeah,
an eye doctor.
As an eye doctor, what you're going to want to do is not put acid in kids' eyes. Like, honestly, that's number one.
Right.
That's a Hippocratic oath thing, I think.
I feel like it was fair play. Maybe she didn't need to like make her completely blind, but like don't put acid in kids' eyes.
On the first day
those
of
are
optometrist school, they're probably like, guys, welcome to optometry school. Here's the things that don't go in eyes: acid, nails, glass, sand, like fire.
All bad.
Those are all the things you don't put in eyes. And
it's
she
actually
missed
just like a poster, a do and don't list.
Yeah. Things that are bad for eyes, 101.
Acid, glass, fire.
Fire. Strangely, other eyes. We don't know how it happens, but don't do it.
No eye-to-eye contact here.
Yeah.
Don't put other eyes in eyes. It sounds intuitive. Like you think like eyes and eyes. Yeah, you could put water in a bucket of water. Don't put eyes in eyes.
Do not put eyes in eyes.
And chapter 2.
And next. So I think at this point, this is where things are getting way more serious with, I think, the kids. They're trying to do more. They're like making bigger plans. So they come to find that it was like barn basically. And they're like, we need to protect ourselves. Like we're getting threatened by more and more people. We need to protect ourselves just to kind of maintain status quo here. And that's when they wrap in Dr. Alan Chaffee. I'm going to call him Chaffee from now on point. Christopher Reeve's character. And they're like, you're doing this and you're going to help us. But also in that moment, it must have been like, I'm trying to think back because again, I only got to watch this through one time. Did Dr. Varner like give any sort of hint on how she does what she does? Because she clearly knows how to block her mind. And I don't know if it for him,
yeah, they do seem to have a little bit more trouble with her, don't they?
Yeah. Well, she was just like, I can't read what you're saying, or you're not saying. They said like, what you're not saying out loud, what you're thinking, or something like that.
They were reading her mind, but they were like, why do you say certain thoughts and not others?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't think they had trouble reading her mind. It's just they were confused by the fact that she's a lying government agent.
Yeah, I think you're right. They were confused about like why she was saying certain things because what was coming out of her mouth wasn't matching the thoughts they were reading.
Right. Because again, she's the bad guy, and it's just like everybody else would have said what they were thinking.
Yeah.
Whereas she's deliberately misleading people because she's the bad guy.
Yeah, and so Dr. Allen like learns how to just in one moment how to block his mind, which I think is like super critical piece of this whole puzzle because we clearly understand that he uses that against the kids. So he just goes along with their plan. I'm trying to think of exactly through the timeline of shit just starts getting crazy. So the kids go live in this barn. They're trying to protect themselves. They clearly see that there's a threat happening. And why am I forgetting this right now?
Because it's not a good movie.
I'm not helping my cause here, guys. Hey, I'm not helping my cause here. And
don't leave open memes.
This is where shit's like, I think like a lot more stuff starts happening and we're just like, all of a sudden it goes from 0 to 60 where I'm trying to, can you guys remind me? I don't know if you remember specifically why the government gets called in for that second, that major, all of a sudden shit blows up. I don't know why I'm forgetting this right now.
Kirstie Alley reveals that like there's other colonies that this has happened in.
Right.
And then that they all go bad.
Right.
Yeah.
So
they
they
got
catch
the
on
warning.
that this is the same thing, and then
they got the warning that shit started hit the fans in the other colonies around the world, and this was right around the time that this colony decided they were all going to move into the barn where they were born. So they had their parents all drop them off with their little briefcases and shit. Like there was literally one of them had a little briefcase. It was hilarious. Kate thought these kids were hilarious, by the way. She laughed every time they were on screen. But like when they dropped them off at the camera,
Why?
I don't know. She thought they were so funny. She thought their hair was funny, like how they all had the same haircuts.
The hair is great.
But yeah, that's when she was like, okay, they're just kind of existing out on the outskirts of town. And then she was like, oh, I just got the word from like the other government agencies or the other government officials who are monitoring these, that shit is hitting the fan all over the world with these people. So we're evacuating the whole town.
Yeah. Back on track. Yeah. So basically they were sending people in also to kind of try to destroy them too, which I clearly established that. So they're like, you need to get out now. But she also made a point to be very clear to get all of her documentation, because again, for her, I feel like everything was just about the career and like the research and like notoriety in this whole big situation. But in that moment too, she gets caught by the kids and they're like, we know, because I think at this point David's actively trying to be like, I don't think this is right. And we see all these different moments. So he gets like kind of uncomfortable when they're killing other people and whatnot. So, but they're like, maybe if we get this missing child, that this will kind of keep him in check or like kind of bring the colony back together. So
yeah, I thought this was weird because like, why did Kirstie Alley, is it Kirstie or Kirstie Alley?
I think it's Kirstie.
What is it? Kirstie? Yeah.
Kirstie.
Right. So I wrote Kirstie everywhere, but why would Kirstie Alley tell Christopher Reeves about the other baby and all that? Like, why would she reveal the whole plot to him essentially with the other colonies and all these sorts of things? Because like, this is before shit hits the fan, because one of them is his daughter, right?
Right.
So like he's not going to be happy that there's that scene where she basically spills the beans to him, right?
Right.
And I thought to myself, if I had raised this crazy little child and you let me raise this crazy little alien child and all this stuff that I've been put through, not to mention my wife's suicide, which was obviously a direct result of this. If I was Christopher Reeves, I'd be pretty pissed off when you were like, oh yeah, no, we knew all this was happening. We just kind of let you guys, flounder and deal with these kids.
Yeah.
Like he took it remarkably well, I guess.
Yeah, he seems to be kind of chill with everything that happens.
His wife died, and she's just like, oh, yeah, well, now that makes sense. But then also, another reason why she shouldn't have told him is, of course, she has to know that they're going to read his mind and know that he knows now.
Right.
Right. Yeah. You can't let that out of the bag.
But she also made a point to tell him, like, you can't let them know that you know. And I think that was part of like this catalyst for him to like totally learn how to control his mind too, because he knew he couldn't reveal that he knew all this information.
Maybe. I would assume that she told him, like, one, out of just kind of professional courtesy, because the two of them had been working on this project from the beginning. And I kind of felt like I got the sense that she was trying to groom him to, like, join the government.
I think also she needed help in ways. I think she because the children were getting stronger and things were changing, and I feel like
it's a town full of bumpkins.
Yeah, and he's like literally the only one that can read. Yeah, and pretty much. And I'm pretty sure he is like one of the few people who can like actually actively maybe help her out.
Yeah, I mean he's Superman.
Yeah.
I was waiting for that to come up. It never really got brought up. I don't know why he just didn't use his superpowers.
I don't know why he didn't fly away and just hit those kids.
Because he doesn't have black hair yet. So
huge plot hole.
He didn't throw his daughter into the sun. It didn't make any sense at all.
So stupid. Why don't you just fly around the earth backwards and turn back time?
Yeah. Why don't you turn back time and then do the abortions? Stupid Superman doctor.
Stupid asshole Superman doctor dick.
Yeah.
Sorry, Meg.
No, you're fine. I'm just gonna blame any sort of me forgetting certain things on you guys just always cutting me off. This is how I'm gonna win this.
No. It's you forget things, and then we just try to make this movie better by adding Superman Doctor.
That's all right. We're gonna do it to Steve too.
So clearly shit's going down south. So yes. Let me get back on track. Dr. Alan Sheffey figures out he knows he has to help the kids, bring them and get them out of town. He also realizes that shit's about to hit the fan and he needs to do something about it. So he comes up with this plan that he can control his mind around them. So he is pretty much the only one who can save this town in ways. And he also had conversation with Barbara so that they knew that David was special and David was different and that they didn't want to hurt him because he was different from the other kids. So he does everything. He brings basically dynamite to where the children are hanging out and is blocking his mind the whole time. Barbara comes in. They're trying to get David out, but they recognize that they find out she's there, of course. We have this whole interaction, but long story short, they get David out and within just seconds, the children are able to break through Dr. Allen's mind and see that there's bomb, but in that second, blown up. Kids are dead.
Mm-hmm.
Which else? Yeah.
Superman suicide bombs all these white-haired kids.
Yeah. I'm willing to give conceit to Dr. Superman having a lot of powers. But at what point does he learn to build a Wile E. Coyote bomb?
with an old-timey alarm clock?
Alarm clock and all.
They're in a small town. They are all jack of all trades. This is where I'm going with this. I'm creating a spot for it. It makes sense to me.
Listen,
he can do whatever he wants.
My
Smart
grandfather, quick side note that is going to completely legitimize this. My grandfather, who was a union spokesperson, and he would organize a bunch of the strikes of all with the mill that he worked in. So they would be striking against the bosses for holding out for better pay or whatever. There was a guy who they called Dynamite Joe, who was a munitions expert, and one time came drunk to one of the rallies, one of the strikes, with a giant trunk full of dynamite set up to explode, and he was going to drive his car into the mill and blow up the mill. So
holy shit!
Point is, and they had to go no, Joe, no, and go home, go to bed, Dynamite Joe. So my point is, small town folks know what to fuck around with dynamite. They know about it.
It's the most basic type of thing you could have there. You're let's just have ammunition on hand because we need to be the militia.
Have one of those big cartoony plungers. That would have been awesome.
Kablow. No, I believe that somebody in that town would know how to do it. I just don't believe that he knows how to build that.
He doesn't seem like the Dynamite Joe of this town. Yeah, you're right.
He's a doctor.
Yeah.
He's his whole thing is do no harm.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure building Wile E. Coyote bombs is harm.
Typically speaking.
I think you're reaching right now,
He should have been on roller skates.
I think
when
you're
he
just
did it.
reaching.
I mean, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the fact that he didn't have a rocket strapped to his back, pushing him through the barn.
Yeah, it was pretty
escape.
dark, though. Yeah.
But he did do. I feel like it was great. He still at least thought enough that it needs to be in his doctor bag because they wouldn't have questioned his doctor bag. Okay.
But they did.
I think you're reaching, Steve. I'm gonna go with that.
I like the bomb can see whatever, but he has this all hinging on the old. Hey, David, can you go get my notebook out of the car?
Right. That's his big plan.
Yeah. I've built a bomb. I'm going to suicide bomb these alien children. I am Dr. Superman. How do I get David out of here? Hey, David, mind if you go grab something out of my car for me? That's a lot to put on that ruse.
And even in the time period that it would take him to do that, David isn't going to leave the barn and then go, oh, I get it, wink.
Yeah, right.
And then stay outside. He's going to go out and then look for a notebook,
they're
not
very
find it, and
literal
then come
children.
back in.
They're very literal
get,
children.
Get goddamn suicide bomb.
Right. He goes, I found your notebook, doctor. Let's get on with the lesson.
Yeah.
And then kablooey. Then they all die anyway.
Oh, man. That whole, push and pull of them trying to read his mind and him putting up the brick wall and all that while also I don't know if you mentioned, but what's her name? The character who was the teacher to start out with. Boy, what's
Barbara.
her name?
Oh,
Barbara.
David's mother.
Barbara
Jill.
comes in. Yeah, David's mother comes in and is trying to
that's
take.
Jill. That's Jill, I think.
Well, whoever comes
Is
in
it?
is trying to take
No, I don't think so.
David. I'm pretty sure it was the teacher.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Yeah. But I
I'm
think
gonna look this up real
Barbara
fast,
is
'cause I'm-
Superman's wife.
I think
yes,
there were
not
two.
Barbara.
I feel like there were two Barbaras. Let me double check. So I'm gonna.
If
double
there
check
were
this
two
real fast.
Barbaras, you lose. This is over if there's two Barbaras.
There
I'm
are
sorry.
not two Barbaras.
No, I know there's not two Barbaras. But
It
yes,
is Jill.
It's David's
It's
mother.
Jill.
It's Jill. Yeah.
Oh wait, I'm gonna look at her.
Yeah. 'Cause
Anyway,
Oh, Linda. Yes. Okay. I was calling her Barbara, so my bad.
No, that's all right. David's mother. When she comes in and she's trying to take David, and then he's like, "No, over here," and then they turn to him and try to read his mind. Then it's like, "Grab him!" No, wait, no, now she's gonna grab him. It was like this push and pull. That had to be a bizarre film to shoot
yeah.
because all these kids just look at you, and then he goes, "Ah!" And he it just was such a strange scene to be the climactic scene.
Yeah.
But I did not remember the suicide bombing of the barn as a part of this movie. But
Yeah, I mean,
I think the 5 minutes before that is even more interesting though, where it's this building of the cops show up to shoot the kids.
yeah,
But then one cop gets turned and starts shooting that cop, and then
that
more
was a
cops
pretty
show up.
brutal scene. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then the military comes and they all turn on each other, right? So
Right.
it's what Christopher Reeve's character decided, or I guess predicted. He was like, it's going to be a bloodbath. You know what I mean? They're just going to turn everybody against each other. But you know what? If you put a helicopter on screen and you make it crash, show me the crash. That's the most biggest letdown ever is
Yeah.
an off-screen helicopter crash.
Yeah, there's so many
Maybe they
good
just saved
explosions anyway too.
yeah,
Yeah,
they didn't want to
but-
blow their load on that one.
I
Apparently,
guess. I guess so. But that would have been the time to do it. That really was, almost the climax of the movie, right? I mean, right after that, it's the climax ended up being the mental struggle between the kids and Christopher Reeves or Dr. Superman, as he's come to be called. But yeah, classic ending. Yeah, Superman is the hero by suicide bombing a bunch of white-haired kids. I mean,
Yep.
we've all seen it before.
yeah. And then
Not his worst plan.
of course, Jill and David get away. And they go. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a fun, interesting movie in that I don't know, super creepy as well. So I don't know.
Yeah, I thought that. I think that the most effective scene to me was when they return the favor and autopsy Christy Alley's character, make her perform an autopsy on herself. Essentially, that was a pretty creepy scene. A lot of the kills, and because they're essentially making people the happening themselves, you know what I mean? That's what they keep doing to people. A lot of those were fairly effective. Some of them were they took it an extra length when they didn't have to. Why don't you just make the drunk janitor just do a face plant off the roof, or do you know what I mean? Why does he have to hold his mop up to go through his torso?
Because he hit the kid with the he hit the kid with the mop.
I know, but
so you have to
angle that would have to be achieved for that to happen is far fetched. Is all same reason of the guy with the truck, the one kid's dad who comes to take her, and they make him run. First of all, hot city planning tip, guys. Don't put a giant propane tank at a T right in front of a T on a road. So if somebody blows through the T, they explode. But that sort of stuff is just you could have just made him drive into a lake. You know what I mean? I get it.
Dude, have they never had an icy road at that juncture?
Yeah.
It's California. Probably not. No.
That's true. But listen, this might be controversial. If I see a group of creepy little white-haired kids all dressed alike walking in a two single file lines on the side of the highway by themselves, I'm going to swerve and run them over, guys. I'm sorry. I might be incriminating myself, but that is probably going to happen.
Well, hold on. Depends. Are they facing away from you or facing towards you? Because if they're facing towards you, don't take the chance.
That's true. I would have to
Don't make
sneak
you-
up.
Don't make you blow yourself
make you
up.
veer.
Yeah.
Yeah. They would definitely make you do something different.
And don't think about anything else. Like, don't think about doing it either, because then they'll hear that. They'll hear it. I have a question.
See, this is creepy.
I have a question
What, Steve?
regarding.
Steve?
Well, just
What?
regarding the haircut. Does this mean Sia can read our minds and make us kill ourselves, or
Yeah.
okay? Just
The
wanted to
power
check.
is in the haircut. The power
Yeah,
is in
definitely.
the do, for sure.
I just want to make sure not to
tell.
fuck with
It's
Sia.
a tell for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's just
Okay.
one of the reasons not to fuck with Sia.
Yeah. So Meg,
Nope.
this was a nice made-for-TV film.
Wow.
It
I
did
feel like that hurts. Like that was
feels
mean.
like it should be maybe an episode of The Twilight Zone or
Yeah.
or something like that. But
Just the way it's filmed, like maybe it's just because of the time, but like it really feels like an ABC afternoon movie, or like a Stephen King, like The Stand from the '90s, and just
Tales from the Dark Side, something like that.
Yeah, just something about the film grain and just the way it's filmed, and like the way it's mostly in daylight, and there's not a whole lot of like motivated lighting. Like it's not. There's not a whole lot of creepiness to it, like the way you see with other films. So
the only thing I would say, like, because I can see that this, I think, even could have been a really good show, or like a multi, like if it was made for TV, I could see it being
Like a
something.
mini series.
Yeah, a mini series of sorts. But I think some things that I think helped make it creepier is that, and I feel like maybe we've talked about this before, of like, I think there's something about certain horror things that happening during the day that have like a different sort of chill factor, because it's like very blatant out in the open and it's not something you normally see. Like, I think a lot of horror does just happen when it's darker and kind of creates that image in your mind. Whereas like, I still felt like there were like a certain creepiness to what the children were capable of doing, because it's also happening during the day. It's like,
yeah, there is a creepy kid thing, and I think it is like, I'm not even a creepy kid fan, and I did find the kids creepy. They get creepier when you start to understand like what they're capable of a little bit. Just because otherwise, just like glowing, white-haired, glowing-eyed kids aren't necessarily creepy. But when you see like how kind of vindictive they are, especially with the Kirstie Alley, autopsy thing and the throwing them off the roof and everything. Like, it's not just they're like disappearing people. When they start to do like real brutal shit, I'm like, okay, like this is kind of creepy.
But I agree. I think it would work better as a TV show because it has that. It has that. Again, also kind of the Stephen King setup of like an entire village afflicted by this. And I feel like we miss out a lot of what, like the other. There's a whole bunch of threads that are just kind of left unpursued because there's that one woman who like is like she had the miscarriage and like she's getting drunk all the time.
Yeah, she's the one drinking in the graveyard.
Yeah.
And you didn't get much for her. And I was like, listen, been there, sister. But I did not like getting hammered in a graveyard. But why? Like, yeah, we didn't get much more about her at all.
Yeah. But you don't get a whole, like the whole town doesn't feel fleshed out very well at all.
No, it seems like there's no one there. Even when like the mob comes to like attack the kids with their torches and 2x4s, and I was like, I know y'all got guns. You're coming out here with 2x4s. Like, what is this? Is this fucking hacksaw Jim Duggan? Fucking candlelight vigil? Like, what are you guys doing?
In defense of that, it's like they know it's like they're kids in ways, and even if they know that they're evil and
so you're saying they were bluffing with the torches?
No,
Yeah,
I just think they weren't. I just think they're, to a certain extent, why would they bring out their guns? Like, I think it wasn't a full serious thing until that they would actually want to kill these children, but they would rather try to scare them almost in ways because they're like,
you can't scare them. They would know you can't do that.
I think it was a torch. Meg, I do not think that was the case. I think they were down to kill the kids.
Mark Hamill, the preacher, the most supposed godly person.
Yeah,
exactly. He went to a gun. Yeah. So there's no way Dynamite Joe wouldn't drive his exploding car into those kids.
Absolutely. It was ill-advised, the mob scene. And when the mob scene is like, and I get it, the town had been evacuated technically at that point, and these were just the hardcore ones that were staying behind that are like, we're not giving our town over to a bunch of crazy Martian babies. But if you're those people, you got guns.
You got mad guns.
Motherfuckers got guns. Right? So,
Sure.
All the other with
Yeah.
all the other things that they would have been afraid of at that time, that they would use their guns
here's
on.
Here's another thing in defense. I'm gonna say why they didn't have guns. I'm gonna keep going with this, guys.
I know, you're trying.
Try.
Well, they knew the kids were at that barn. Maybe they were going with the torches. They're just like, we're just gonna motherfucking burn this place down.
Yeah. They also got guns in them gun racks and them pickup trucks.
They would have had guns to make sure any stragglers who tried to get out of the barn would have been
Maybe
shot.
they were
Yeah.
packing. We just couldn't see
Well,
it.
and they're also like at this point, because this is before the big old, the copter and the tank. There wasn't a tank, but it was like
No
a
tank.
big bus. It was a bus,
Yeah.
right? Why they brought the
was
bus,
a prison
I don't
bus.
know. Yeah, prison bus, and the cops come. This is before that. So I guess the cops were like off in a different area, kind of rallying the troops, like, and then the townspeople came. Like, I would just be like, where are the cops in this instance? Like when the townspeople are walking through the street with torches, like there's not one cop floating around. But
Yeah. Even when those cops first show up, like they point the guns at the kids, and then the one cop says to the other, "You know what your orders are," and like your orders are to shoot those kids.
yeah.
You know, so
They've
like,
already reserved to like, yeah, we about to blast at these kids.
yeah.
But like also why is it just like local cops and what appears to be some like National Guardsmen or state militiamen or something? It's like, where's the fucking real life Mulder and Scully? Like where is the FBI?
Kirstie Alley is the Mulder and Scully.
I mean, Kirstie Alley was
Kirstie
that.
Alley
What's
just
that?
smokes. Like her whole fucking thing is like she's got an alien just in the basement by like the cleaning supplies. Like where's the government?
I feel
Where's
like this
the
is turning right
security?
now, Brian, and I think you are attacking the wrong people.
No, this isn't. Honestly, this is a bad movie. But you know what? It's bad. It's bad. It's poor. It's poorly
It's all right.
made. It has so many plot holes.
Brian's completely right, though. At this
Wow.
point, Clear and Present Danger had already come out.
Yeah.
And that film features a lot of the satellite tech of spying on the cartel. There's no way the government wouldn't be able to satellite spy on crazy, scary children without them knowing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Meg, let me be clear as well. Steve's movie's bad too, but this is a bad movie. This is a bad movie. I liked parts of it. I thought there were creepy parts. I thought there were effective parts. Kirstie Alley is she's bad at acting. She's not good. She does a bad job.
Back to the TV movie thing.
Yeah.
Aside from Mark Hamill, everybody stinks.
Really, Christopher Reeves, Kirstie Alley is bad, and Christopher Reeves can't carry the rest of it. He's okay at best.
Yeah.
Mark Hamill is the only good actor, and he's not. He's barely in it.
He's like 3 scenes.
Yeah, it's really. I needed more Mark Hamill. I needed less Kirstie Alley.
I kind of wish Mark Hamill would have been the doctor.
He would have been great.
It would have been 1,000% better movie because Christopher
But I think
Reeves
you needed
is
the tall guy.
Yeah.
You needed the tall guy to
That's
like
the
be
thing.
like,
Yeah,
"Ooh,
that's
You
why
gotta
he's
they
have the
saving
tall guy who was like kind of like the local, local boy done good, and Mark Hamill was going to be the unhinged person. You got when you get
He does have
get,
crazy eyes in ways.
when you get Christopher Reeves connected to the movie, you got to put him in the male starring role. I get it, but he could not carry it. He couldn't do it.
No.
He couldn't do it.
No. This is another, like, the same way Ghost of Mars was like a vehicle that like a bunch of people were like, well, at least Natasha Henstridge, she was trying to hold on to her like clout. Like, I feel like this film was a way for Christopher Reeve and Kirstie Alley to hold on to their clout. Because, I mean,
I'm curious because, like, I feel like this wasn't one of her last films, though.
It wasn't
I
one of
just
her
don't know if
last
that, like-
films, but she's never really been like a
She's
star.
never been good in anything. She played a decent supporting role in Cheers.
Yeah.
And and then what was the other one she was in? Is it Designing Women? Is that what she's in?
No, it was a
not
show called
Designing Women.
Fat Actress on like Showtime. That was like her big starring role for years.
No, but like she was in a supporting role in another like 90s sitcom. Wasn't
Star
she?
Trek. She was on Star Trek.
That's not what I'm thinking of.
I don't know.
I feel like I need to.
Not Designing Women. Dang it.
No.
Anyway,
That's Delta Burke. You don't talk
Yes.
bad about Delta Burke.
No, I'm not. I know Delta. It's not Delta Burke, but it was something like that. I'm like thinking of like a news radio era type of show that I'm trying to imagine that she was on, and I'm not being able to place it right now. But anyway,
Yeah,
she's pretty bad. I mean, just generally speaking. But
I
she's
feel like
name
she just was still
recognition.
classic for like in the 90s and stuff like that. You saw her in a lot of.
Well, yeah, it's
stuff.
because she was
just
in Look
always
Who's
there.
Talking.
Yeah, that was like a big one too.
Look
I
who's
really she was in
talking.
that
Yeah.
house.
Oh, Veronica's Closet. That's what you're thinking
That's
of.
what I'm thinking of. Yes, I absolutely, because
Yeah.
that's why I was saying Designing Women. I feel like there was a fashion element that I was missing, but in any case,
Anywho,
final thoughts on Village of the Damned.
Hey, for a TV movie, it's okay, and for
my God.
We're talking to Megan, but you know.
Well, I was waiting on like more so you guys for the final thoughts. I actually walking away from all three of these movies, like this, I genuinely had fun. I feel like watching this one in ways because I felt like there was like certain creep factors and had more of slight like original plot to it, you know, with like how the kids, like how they brought that into it. So, but we can dive more into it when I get to talk shit on Steve here in just a few minutes. Wink.
The defending champ's going to bring up the rear here with the Ward from 2010. Steve, it's all you.
Champ is here. Champ is here.
Not for long.
We'll see. So yes, The Ward 2010, John Carpenter's last film. So be respectful. Be respectful. It's his last film.
Last film so far. I mean, he could come out of retirement. We'll see.
I think he has to. He has to.
I feel like he's way into being just kind of a synthwave dude now.
Yeah.
He does his concerts. He gets to do the music for the new Halloween movies. He just likes to chill, do synthwave, hang out with what's that one band? Gunship.
I'm not familiar. I was going to say LCD Sound System. So
no.
That's how far off.
Yeah, there's a synthwave band called Gunship. Check them out; they're pretty good. They sampled him on one of their tracks. So yeah, that's what he does now. He doesn't do movies. So the Ward is the last one.
Yeah,
that's it. It's over.
It's a strong finish.
I was gonna say I feel like he had to be because if he it was such a disappointment that what else could he actually do at that point?
Well, I don't so much feel like that this one was the disappointment, but it was really that Ghost of Mars really put him off film, and then he tried this one as a comeback, and people weren't having it. But it's nice because he came back, he made a film that actually looks like a film that didn't belong on ABC Saturday. And it didn't.
I see.
This one, it belonged on Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah, it belonged on Sci-Fi Channel, but hey, still looked like a movie.
Yeah.
Also, pretty strong actors in this film. We have Amber Heard, whatever you may or may not think of her, and one of my favorite character actors is Jared Harris. That guy's great. The guy who plays the doctor in this film.
Mm-hmm,
that guy's great.
I do like
Yeah, he's
him.
in a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, he's a great character actor. And then there's a TV show called The Terror. He's on the first season of. You should really check it out. It's a fucking great show. And then we also have Mamie Gummer. You may or may not recognize, but she is Meryl Streep's daughter. So she definitely has some pedigree as an actress.
Which character does she play?
She plays Emily. So kind of the... We'll get into it, but she's kind of the more excitable one. She's the goofier, I would say more manic.
Yes. Yep.
Of the group. But yeah, just to get into the film, The Ward 2010, it starts with Amber Heard running from the police and burning a house down, which, I mean, may or may not be a character thing. I don't know. That could just be Amber Heard.
That's what she does. I actually went as far as to pause this, go back, rewind and pause it to see what was written on her palm. But of course, they just tell you.
Yeah, they just tell
pretty
you
quickly. So
it's just the address of the house.
You're right.
But yeah, Amber Heard is she burns the house down and then is quickly taken in, kicking and screaming by the police, and then the police take her to a psychiatric hospital where she is committed for her own good because she's burning houses down, running around in her panties. That's somewhat dangerous behavior.
It's usually frowned upon in most neighborhoods.
Great. Yeah. Also, she doesn't seem to remember anything except her name, Kristen, and everything else is a blur to her. So, yeah, amnesiac burning houses down. We got to, investigate this.
We need to have a conversation.
Yeah. You have to
Somebody's
sit
gotta
down
have
with
a
somebody. Yeah, sit down with somebody. So, yes, she's committed to this hospital, the North Bend Psychiatric Hospital, and she is under the care of Jared Harris's character, but she's committed to a ward with a handful of other women. And we've talked about Emily, played by Mamie Gummer, and then there's a couple other girls in there. They all have like different character personalities, but there's Sarah, Zoe, and Iris. And Sarah's kind of more the flirty type, and then Iris is like the nerdy type, and then Zoe is like a child in many ways. So yeah, through this,
they're the Charlie's Angels of this ward, basically. Is what
pretty much.
Yeah,
They own this ward. This is their town, and Kristen is being committed with them. In a lot of ways, the film becomes like the classic "One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest." It is that strong.
Please do not mention those two films in the same.
I'm like, that's bold. That's real bold.
These patients, which it'll come around later as to why maybe you can suspend your disbelief a little bit on this, but they are all way too good looking and way too put together with way too much makeup and way too much hair done up to be patients in this psychiatric hospital,
or just even in 1966. There's there's nobody as good looking as Amber Heard in 1966. They just never existed.
They didn't make them then.
They just didn't make them like that back then. But yeah, that is one of the first kind of most jarring, and it just like even if it wasn't Amber Heard, she's still like not very like distressed or dirty when she's committed. Like her hair is very Hollywood when she.
I feel like she legit
it took
had
me
dreads.
out of it so hard.
Honestly, I thought she had dreads. I was like, did she
the
just
hair
come from
was
a rave?
Little bit disheveled looking, but yeah, her makeup was like pristine, and she had just ran through the woods and burned a house down.
Right. Yeah, she's a little too put together for being dragged off the streets and thrown into a psych ward. I get that. That's fine. But like you said, you can suspend disbelief because of the turn at the end. And that's what we'll go with.
We'll lean heavy into that.
But back to the analogy of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, you have an outsider being committed, and she has to, gain favor with the group, and then she does. Like, they become friends, they get to learn about each other, but she's still very much a rebel and trying to escape, much like Jack Nicholson's character was as well. And they both find themselves...
This is shameful, Steve.
I'm like real upset.
You should feel ashamed of yourself to compare these two movies.
This is like what I like about what he's doing right now is that this is like what he's got. He's like, if you think about One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, maybe you'll like my film a little bit more.
Let's talk about a good movie.
Right. Hey, shut up. None of you dummies figured it out to talk about a better movie.
I don't have the balls to do it, I guess.
You could have very easily talked about better movies. None of you did.
When I think about Ghosts of Mars, it immediately takes me to Casablanca, and here is why.
You can't say that the Martians are the Nazis. You can't. I'm not letting that.
Yeah.
But in a lot of ways, there is still just the film it's obviously not great, but it has just a lot of the same kind of hallmarks and trappings of other films that you see that occur in psychological psych hospitals. There you have the nurse who's kind of shitty. You have the orderly who's like a big dickhead. You have Kristen is obviously put through a number of different treatments, including electroshock therapy. And then you have just kind of like the camaraderie of the girls on the ward. You know, they do actually have like decent chemistry, I feel like, especially between Kristen and Emily. Zoe's character gets a little grating with her childlike behavior.
It's genuinely... Little grating is maybe the biggest understatement in the fucking world. Her character is insufferable.
It is hilarious when she runs, though, because she runs like a toddler.
Why? Oh my god, there were such
so
bad
funny.
decisions being made there. Oh good god, we'll get into
I
it.
genuinely
but
love the
Zoe,
way she...
when
Go
they're
ahead,
running
go
down the hallway when they're trying to escape. Yes, it's fucking comical. Kate and I were laughing out loud.
I genuinely love the way she kicks her feet out like a dope
Yeah,
and
to
runs
the
like
sides,
a child.
like she runs like bow-legged.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so
hilarious.
bad.
But of course, through all this, it isn't just your normal psych hospital film. It's a ghost story as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because the entire time, Amber Heard is being haunted by some ghost within her cell, within the ward, in various places. You even have a nice, tasteful shower scene. It's tasteful.
I suppose it is, yes. For 2010, yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, John Carpenter doesn't you don't really see any butts or boobs in it. So he filmed everything tastefully.
Yeah.
And it wasn't unnecessarily gross or lingering. And
so this is not a slasher movie. Just FYI, this is not.
Nope.
Oh wow,
it's Ghost
Brian.
Story.
Sorry,
You're still a little.
Still, it's
a
still the
little
wounds
sore.
are still open, guys.
That's
all
fine.
I'm saying.
But no, you're right. It's not a slasher film.
Guys, that was a
Ghost Story.
callback to a previous episode.
Go back
Let's
to
press
Showdown.
on.
Go back to September Showdown.
Yeah.
Find out why Brian is salty.
Brian, be salty like that.
But yeah, the ghost is showing up and attacking her, and she is trying to convince the doctor and the nurse and everybody else involved that she's being attacked and haunted by a ghost on the ward. But they're not having it because they obviously believe that, of course, somebody in a psychiatric hospital is going to have visions of a ghost. That's part of her diagnosis that we now have to put together. So, yeah, generally just kind of put off and ignored. But she, resolves herself to escape, as all strong women would, because, she can't be held down.
I'm being held down by no man.
Trying to reach for another movie. I was trying to think, Girl Interrupted. There we go.
Oh
Yeah,
my
this is just
God.
okay. So during this movie, Kate, because I've never seen Girl Interrupted.
Oh.
Yeah.
Kate said she spoiler alert, Kate thoroughly hated this movie. She was like, this is fucking trash. And the whole time she kept going, they are desperately trying to put on Girl Interrupted vibes. She was like, I want you to watch Girl Interrupted right after this so you see how much they're desperately trying to rip this off. And I don't have a frame reference. I've never seen it, but she mentioned that multiple times.
Or Gothica with Halle Berry. We could reference that too.
Sure,
maybe.
yep.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one, but
This is just like League of Their Own, guys.
Just like it. Yeah. Overall, the film kind of progresses just like half ghost story, half kind of psychiatric ward drama. It's not until that one of the other members of the ward crew is killed, and I believe it's Sarah that gets it first.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because then they're out looking for Sarah after that, right?
Yeah,
So
Sarah is dragged off by the ghost and given the full-on lobotomy spike to the
through the eye.
Yeah, right through the eye. And that's when it becomes real that the ghost is a threat to all of them. It's not just all in Amber Heard's head. And then you learn, ooh, spooky.
So
They're all plagued by the ghost.
This is where you get that like the first look at the kind of like, because there was a couple creepy scenes before that, but then this is where you get that. I think the first looked at that like weird soft edged CGI from like 2001.
Yeah.
And it's just it's fucking really bad CGI. It's very,
I'm not
very
gonna.
bad.
Sorry to like pause that for a second. I mean, not that it really matters because we really understand this movie isn't that great. I feel like Iris was the one who died first because wasn't it right after her she goes to her.
Oh yeah, you know what? You're right.
Her.
It's Iris who gets it through the eye.
Yeah, she
you're
does
right.
first.
Yep, Meg, you're right. I forgot. Yeah, because then they're going and looking for Iris after that, not Sarah.
Yeah. It's because Iris is getting better, and she's supposed to be the one who's going to leave the hospital first.
Right. That's why they're like, well, maybe she did get out. Maybe she did get out. No one leaves the hospital.
And then they go out looking for her, and luckily, in the cell is the easiest lock to pick in history. You just need a knife, and you just twist it a little bit, and it pops right open.
Here's the thing they don't get into Amber Heard's character that you don't know, but it's pretty well implied. She's a magician.
Yeah, I guess. she's some but the thing is, she's not a criminal mastermind by any means.
No.
Because, listen, maybe wait more than 0 seconds before you attempt your escape from the time the guy walks away from the door. Like, he's like, all right, good night. She's like, okay, good night. The second he's out of view, she pops up and starts trying to pick the lock. It's like, you are not a criminal mastermind by any stretch of the imagination.
She's not. She's a magician, and you can see that all through her character.
Yeah,
sleight of hand
type.
Yeah. She has sleight of hand when hiding her pills. She's great at escaping straitjackets. She can pick locks.
I actually felt like that was a really great way to how she got out of her straitjacket. That I was like, you know what? If I ever end up in a straitjacket, I'm gonna remember that. You know,
exactly. Find a way to cut.
I put that in a straitjacket.
That's November Showdown. Who can escape? We're done with movies. We're just doing straitjacket escape.
We're gonna build a shed in my yard, set it on fire, and throw each of us in there with a straitjacket, see who gets out.
Who's champ now? Huh?
The stakes go super high in November, guys.
Iris does get it first, and then it goes then it goes Sarah, Emily, and Zoe are all eventually captured and killed by the ghost. And throughout this, you learn that there was somebody on the ward. Well, there was actually 2 people on the ward before Kristen showed up, Tammy and Alice. And Kristen discovers her first night there, she finds like a charm bracelet that's all broken up, and it has like the words Alice on it. But she doesn't put it together till later when she finds Zoe's rabbit that Zoe carries around all the time has the words AH on the bottom heel, and then she finds the words Alice Hudson written somewhere else, and she puts it all together, and she goes, oh, who was Alice Hudson? And she has to start asking and investigating that now. It's another new mystery for her to solve in her strenuous life. On top of everything,
it's something else to not happen.
She has the weight of the world on her shoulders because she doesn't know her own past, but maybe this will help her discover her past by discovering the mystery of the ward.
More questions, still no answers. I get it.
What you find out is that Alice was a member of the ward as well as another female named Tammy. And apparently Alice had been abusing everybody on the ward, Emily, Tammy, Sarah, Zoe, etc. She had been abusing them all, and so they had come up with a plan, much like in Full Metal Jacket, where they punish...
Private Pile.
Private Pile, yeah.
Yeah.
Much where they punish Private Pile to keep the group together.
Yeah. So they did the equivalent of the pillowcases full of bars of soap with her.
But they just took it a little too far, and they accidentally killed Alice.
Sure.
Yeah, they just went too far. Yeah, they went too far, and they killed Alice.
It's a pretty aggressive accident.
Yes. This is a little aggressive, yeah. They killed Alice, and then Alice is the one that you find is the ghost that's haunting the ward. She had already killed Tammy before Kristen arrived. She's now killed Iris, and she's on that after Sarah's death. That's when Kristen, Emily, and Zoe all decide to escape. And in their grand escape, Emily is killed. It looks like a suicide. So again, the people on the ward are not going to believe her. The nurse and the doctor, they're not going to believe any of this is going on. They can't even find Iris or Sarah. And now Emily looks like she's committed suicide. So they have to come up with a plan to escape. and it's one of the great mastermind plans. Even though she's not a mastermind overall, she comes up with a great plan to take Zoe hostage to make it look like Zoe's in danger, but Zoe's not in danger. You have to understand that's how great the plan is.
Yeah, it's flawless.
It's flawless.
No escape. She's just gonna walk outside and then go bye and just go out into the woods.
I love every ounce of what's happening right now because Steve's just using really great words.
Yes.
He's like, mastermind.
So has
Good words.
has
I
Sarah
have the
died
best
yet?
words.
Have we
I have
got
all
to
these words. They're so great.
Have we got to Sarah's death with the electrocution? Has she died yet?
I kind of passed over it, but yeah,
That could
Sarah
have been so good.
could have
Like you had an opportunity for an exploding head and you didn't do it.
been. I was looking for exploding eyeballs in
Or
that one, actually.
anything, exploding head, exploding eyeballs, something. But, because you have this buildup of the electrocution and her head, and you see like the blood vessels in her head and stuff. And it just, you don't really get the payoff, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's not a final payoff. I mean, it was masterful in Carpenter's usage to, let people know that there was the electroshock therapy on hand in the ward to begin
Masterful.
with.
It was masterful foreshadowing.
Right. And then to call back, to call back throughout the film, like, oh, this is a dangerous thing, even though in real life it actually isn't that dangerous and is still used.
That is honestly the most effective scene, maybe of the whole movie for me, which was when she gets the electroshock therapy the first time, because it's just a terrifying, like being completely, not in control of yourself and being in a scenario where you don't know what's happening, and then getting this like torturous, therapy happening to you, kind of out of the blue and stuff, like is a pretty scary proposition. Like that was probably the most effective scene to me. Honestly.
Yeah, it was pretty good. And again, like it's something that you don't see a lot in Ghosts of Mars or Village of the Damned. There's a lot of camera movement in this film.
I would agree. I would say that was one of the big takeaways I said was, it's definitely well shot. I thought the cinematography was certainly the best of the three films in this one.
I think there's certain things that this one had that are just naturally because of like the progression. Like I felt like even just the acting was better, but I think it's more so crediting that to it being like newer than all three of them too.
Yeah.
I think people just naturally got challenged to be better and all those things.
Yeah. I mean, like Ghosts of Mars is like, again, there's no reason to bash that film that much, but it just kind of feels like Carpenter had given up, and so like he made no attempt to shoot anything other than just flat shots of just like flat widescreen shots like all the time. Whereas like Village of the Damned, you see some like odd camera movements, and he also employs the fisheye a lot because it's the 90s. There's a lot of fisheye lens in that movie.
Yeah. It's a fucking Busta Rhymes music video half the time.
Yeah. And then in this one, like you're saying, Meg, like Carpenter does adapt, to the time. And the cinematography, it does, at times it's darker and grittier, and other times it does have he has more movement about him, and he shoots like closer frames. But also there are some things of the time that aren't great either.
Yeah, a couple of things, like the fucking horrific CGI.
Yeah.
And also, Alice's look is so inconsistent. Like sometimes she looks genuinely cool, and like one of the scenes where she pops up and I think it's when Zoe dies. It's when she pops up and cuts her throat. Was that Zoe?
Emily.
No, it was Emily.
Oh, that was Emily.
That one. That's probably the best it looks.
Yeah, it looks really cool, and like her eyes are kind of buggy, and it's like it's pretty effective. But then there's other times where she just looks like kind of a fuzzy scarecrow mask from Batman Begins almost. Yeah. Like it's
in the shower it looks terrible.
It's fucking bad. Yeah, it's real bad.
Yeah, I'll concede it looks terrible in the shower.
Yeah,
it looks out of place, and like because there isn't a lot of work put into trying to hide what she looks like. So there's not she's hardly ever like hiding in the shadows or anything.
Yeah, she just kind of pops up.
Yeah, when she appears and like you see it all the way.
Honestly, her hands are the worst part. Like when they have the scenes, like
she like kind of pulls
when
up.
she's trying to, when she's doing something and like you're not seeing her face, but you're seeing her hands, whether it be like putting the electroshock thing on. Again, their names are escaping me, but on the one patient, Sarah, on the one patient or whatever, her hands, and they're trying to do this kind of almost like there's bugs under her skin kind of movement, and it just looks so PlayStation 2. Like it just looks like shit.
Yeah, it doesn't look great. They should have just went with like more practical like goopiness.
Yeah, just fucking do practical hands. That's easy to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the hands were practical, but it's like when they did that overlay of the like underskin worms.
Yeah,
that was bad. They should have just like added more goop to like just put like weird fucking bandages or whatever on her hands.
Even if it would have been an old school shitty like bladder effect, that probably would have been more effective than the weird CGI bugs or worms under the skin or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Some of it doesn't work. Some of it is effective. So it kind of goes back and forth. But on the escape, Zoe and Kristen, they don't make it all the way out of the hospital. They get pretty close, but unfortunately, she doesn't plan her route very well. And she waits for an elevator rather than going downstairs. An elevator that for sure will have people in it.
Yeah. I do like in this scene where she runs past one of the orderlies and he's like, "Hey, get back here." And she just slaps him in the dick with a flashlight.
Yeah.
It's not a nut shot, but she hits him in like the stomach. But it's just such a... They're just running back, and one of the orderlies, he's not the main orderly that has come to like, that we've come to know a little bit. It's just a random guy in a white jumpsuit. He steps out in a doorway and goes, "Hey, get back here." And she just kind of like smacks him, not hard, just kind of smacks him in the stomach with a flashlight, and he just like, falls over. And I just love that scene because I just like to imagine that she nut tapped him with the flashlight as he came out the door.
And that's the take they kept because it was the most real reaction. Yeah. That at this point she gets Kristen is sedated and then put into a straitjacket, and she has to make another daring escape, which she does with an amazing, Houdini-like straitjacket escape.
Sure.
That nobody could expect, because, again, she's a magician. Her and Zoe go on the run again, and they find themselves in the basement. At what point they try to escape via dumbwaiter back up, and she sends Zoe on her way, and Zoe is taken, disappears, and... Kristen has to investigate this. It leads her to the office of the doctor, where this is where, hey, a turn and then another turn happens. You get the turn, you think, oh, maybe the doctor was evil the entire time. Because he didn't seem evil up to this point. He just kind of seemed dismissive, but maybe he was evil. Maybe he had planned this out the entire time, knowing that there was a ghost and just was letting people die. But oh no, the second turn is that you find out.
You don't even buy what you're saying. That's what I love about this.
No, I totally do. The second turn is that really everybody, this is a big reveal. Everybody who's on the ward was actually the multiple personalities of Alice. And they're using radical therapy to re-merge all of her personalities into one. And that Alice really isn't a ghost. Alice is the original mind absorbing everybody back into her to be whole again.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. They have it's kind of a nice happy ending. I like it.
And then her parents who you knew, so that was the giveaway for me earlier in the movie when the parents were looking out the window, that I was like, oh, some or all of these characters don't exist. Is when they were like looking down and they were like, "Who's that?" And they're like, "Those are the sad people," or whatever. Remember, like earlier when they're in the courtyard and they're looking out the window. Then I was kind of like, "All right, are they doing that? Some of these characters are in her mind." But Yeah.
Just like Martin Scorsese ripped off in the movie Shutter Island.
Right, exactly.
Martin Scorsese was incredibly influenced by John Carpenter's The Ward.
I heard that. I have heard that. I've read that in interviews with him. And when Marty and I call him Marty, when Marty and I get together and for coffee, he has brought that up before a couple of times.
And Leo, when him and I go and get beers, he told me about how blown away he was by The Ward and the fact that they could all represent so many different personalities.
I think I am putting in my resignation right now, guys.
Yeah, this this scene with the reveal when she holds the glass to the doctor's neck, she couldn't be less intimidating. like she has no physicality. She has no real sense of desperation. I hate to pile on, but she's just fucking bad. She genuinely is. This movie could have been fine, but she's bad.
I don't think she was trying to be that threatening, though. She's just trying to get answers. But she's not trying to threaten his life.
Don't talk to me like I'm a child, Steve.
I just watched her hit someone in the stomach.
What I can only describe as a shit-eating grin on his face because he knows this is true. She's a bad actor as well. She's Kirstie Alley level bad. Everyone, with the exception of the doctor, which we talked about, he's a pretty good character actor. He's good in a lot of things. Hirsch is his last name. What you mentioned?
Harris.
Jared Harris. That's right. Jared Harris is fine. He did not want to be here, and the other characters, the dialogue between all of the multiple personalities within the One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest type of environment there, they were all, with the exception maybe of I could appreciate that Meryl Streep's daughter was taking some swings at least, but the rest of them were fucking bad.
Well, Iris
Sarah
and
wasn't that bad. Sarah wasn't terrible, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like Iris and Sarah, the problem I would concede with them is that you don't get a sense of what their real personality issue is. The thing is it's I guess it's, I don't know if it's un-PC or what, but when you're depicting people on a psych ward, you have to you feel the need to make their personalities bigger and more dangerous than you would think.
Yeah.
Think about Brad Pitt in 12 Monkeys. Yeah. And I'm not trying to do the thing I've been doing, but you think about Brad Pitt in 12 Monkeys, he's a fucking nutcase to use, the medical parlance.
Yeah.
I think another talking to the characters themselves is that, and I was just thinking about this, that there isn't a lot of depth to them, and I think maybe you guys are kind of slightly saying that without saying that, but I think that kind of aids in you understanding what's actually going on throughout the whole thing, because they don't actually have each of their individual personalities, but because they're part of the overall personality of Alice.
Right. But I mean, you get the sense from Zoe, she's kind of the Arrested Development part of Alice. She's still a child.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying that, but I mean, as far as, I don't think there's a lot of things that are very exciting or interesting about all of them. They were very distinct in trying to showcase each one is different, but you still don't know much about anything, so you also don't even care what happens to them in ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just killer fodder, basically. They're ghost fodder. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Iris is sort of an artist, but Sarah is not very, her character isn't very strong. And then Mamie Gummer, her performance as Emily, it's interesting and it's fun at times. She does take some big swings, and that whole when she paints on the smiley face. Yeah. For group therapy, she's trying to put on a happy air, but
she is definitely the most stereotypical of a mentally ill person in a psych ward type environment. So I get that, but so you could find that
Yeah.
Realistic or unrealistic, you do it depending on how you look at it, but at least it was like a slightly interesting performance.
Right.
But,
And even in the end, like part of Kristen's discovery is she reads the doctor's notes, and the doctor has them all listed, like the different personalities. He has them listed as like how they fit into Alice's whole personality. So Emily is listed as the id, which is, old Freudian like psychology.
Right.
And then like he has Iris as the artist, Kristen is the survivor, and then like the other ones are, I don't know. I don't remember them offhand, but yeah. So you can see how they're not, like Meg is saying, they're not fully formed people, so they're not fully formed characters because they all fit into one person.
Yeah.
But I still feel like they could have, I don't know what they could have done, but I feel like with this whole overall situation, it was easy. It's easy to tell like what the ending is going to be because you're talking about, we're already in like this psych ward situation. So we're talking about mental illness of sorts. So what could we possibly be talking about in this horror situation? And that's where I feel like this movie had like its weakness was in that, like the predictability. I feel like the only thing that stood out is like it had some good jumps, like but the way they did things, but there's a lot of predictability to it.
So questions. Were the staff of the ward, the doctor and the orderlies and the nurse and all this stuff, were they writing each of her personalities' names on the doors? Or was that something she was imagining? Or because why would they have known to cross out Tammy?
And it might have been, it might have been something that she did herself.
Yeah, maybe.
But then they
also
also
had to play
know.
along,
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
I get it to play
along,
but how would they know Tammy is gone?
I think maybe if she doesn't, because the whole thing of like, while the doctor's trying to get all of these personalities to regress and go back into Alice, I think if Tammy just doesn't pop up anymore, or if one of the other, because you don't see it because Tammy's already dead by the time Kristen gets in there, but maybe one of the other personalities had said Tammy was dead.
Right.
Perhaps.
In therapy.
Or she's gone, because that's kind of like been the thing where they start asking question, where is this person?
Right.
They say it over and over and over again. So that could be the one tell for the doctors. Like,
they could.
If they're asking, where's Iris, then they know maybe Iris is gone at that point.
I can accept that. Why do they have an entire wing of the hospital designated to one patient? Like, I'm pretty sure that's not how hospitals work. Again, nope. I'm picking away. Yeah.
I don't mean to keep defending this dude because I feel like the only thing missing is that he was so adamant on this was such an experimental thing that he was working on that he could probably have justified like having a dedicated wing so he could do his experiment and have money put towards it. You know what I mean? That's the only reason. So
yeah. And also, again, if you're dealing with if the way it's working is that she presents in different personalities, then give all those personalities a room, then she's probably sleeping in those rooms in different days.
Could be. I'm just thinking of the logistics of the hospital, and I'm like,
I know what you're saying.
If she is a proven violent patient, and you have one patient on the entire ward with at least 3 people designated specifically to them, how are you letting her escape? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like you're getting lost in the mix of multiple patients. I don't know. It's just so I guess what I'm ultimately getting to here is like, it is the big reveal. The whole movie hinges on the big reveal, right? The movie doesn't make like a goddamn lick of sense, and the characters aren't developed and all these types of things, like all these shortcomings of the movie. And there's a lot of movies like this. Like, this isn't just one of them. This isn't the one of them. There's tons of them that are like this, where it's like there's all these plot holes, there's all these missteps, there's bad character development, there's all these negative things that all get explained for the most part by the twist ending. Are you supposed to go back and feel better about all the movie was bad up till this point, and then you're like, oh, twist ending, but now all that stuff that you didn't enjoy about this movie like kind of makes a little bit more sense? And it's like, damage is done. You know what I mean? Like, the movie sucked. You can't go back and retroactively make the movie not suck with a reveal. You know what I mean? And I feel like when you have a movie that hinges so heavily on a big twist reveal like this, like, I feel like some of the M. Night Shyamalan movies kind of like fall in. It's like he does a better job in some instances, like in The Village and stuff like that. But or The Town, The Village, The Town, what's it called? The Village, right?
Village.
Like some of those ones, it's like there's a big, you're kind of upset that so much of the movie hinged on the reveal, but at least like it was on the way there was fun. You know what I mean? Like this is like it hinges on this big reveal, but it's like we've watched an hour and 25 minutes of a kind of shitty movie to get to a reveal that isn't going to undo the hour and 25 minutes of shittiness.
Sure. But you know what? I think overall the ending, I like the way the ending is actually like strangely uplifting.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad ending. The ending was to me was better than the rest of the movie.
Right.
But you know, I watched an hour and 25 minutes to watch 10 minutes of okay. It's like with Ghost of Mars when you watched like an hour and whatever of shit, and then you finished with turbo shit. You know what I mean? It's like you go in the opposite direction. So,
the only thing I was going to add is that I'll be the wild card here and say, like, I didn't love the ending in that because it almost was just like we have all of these things that keep happening and then it's just super resolved. And maybe it's just a personal preference of mine that I feel like a better at a situation, because I feel like that's not always how that type of stuff works. Like, like, you know, especially when you have multiple personalities. But so I feel like I would have probably appreciated more if there was just somehow this like twist where she, like, one of her personalities came out.
Oh, but Meg, you're completely forgetting the complete end of the film, are you?
Wait, am I forgetting
You're
this?
absolutely forgetting. So, okay, so the end of the film is that the personalities are resolved and Alice gets her life back. And you find what I particularly like is that even though you had all those tropes early on that the doctor might be evil or is indifferent.
Oh, I remember this now. Yeah, because they open the fucking thing and then she jumps out. Okay, now I remember this now. Yeah, okay.
Listen, I like an end on a jump scare. I was okay with that. Jump scare, it was a fine jump scare, but like, even
it's the scariest of scares because it's Amber Heard.
But that's what this movie I feel like totally like weighed on is the jump scares.
If she would have been done up or something, but it was just her. It wasn't like Alice.
I think it makes sense that it'd be Kristen too because she's
but that's the thing. You had
blah, blah, blah. You know, like
right, but you had all those tropes that the doctors were possibly evil, but no, it comes. You know, real wholehearted, you know, everybody gets to survive, you know, everybody's happy, nobody actually died, but then Amber Heard,
Yeah, it's like the movie was fucking dumb. The reveal and the jump scare like make it slightly less dumb. So we're supposed to be good with that? Like,
look, I understand. Look, I understand how like none of us are Johnny Depp. But do you know how many times Amber Heard jumped out of a medicine cabinet at Johnny Depp?
Yeah.
You live in fear. Like,
yeah. This is just like, she's bad. Nothing happened in this movie. Like,
you know, I'm like, I don't want to backtrack on that too, because I like as soon as you started saying that, I like remembered that moment. But I felt like something more subtle where this movie depended on simply like jump scares to be like scary, you know. I think it depended on it pretty heavily versus it could have been more subtle to be like that hit deeper. I don't know.
It started out with a dark and stormy night scene and I was like, cool, we got some cool spooky atmosphere. I'm gonna be on board with this. They never really, I mean, you got more spooky atmosphere and you had like during the the attempted escape where she's got the knife to what you find out to be her own throat. That is also a dark and stormy night, but at that point you're like, all right, you played that chord. Let's go on to something else.
Yeah.
It just,
I think the scene where there's a blackout, because there is a storm blackout on the ward at one point, and like you get flashes of something. I think that scene's pretty effective as far as like being atmospheric, but like not necessarily leaning on jump scares because you don't.
Is that
see
the one
anything.
when the electricity goes out because of Sarah being electrocuted or whatever?
No.
Or is that a second blackout?
No, no, there's just like an earlier blackout because
Okay.
like I think it's before like any of them are killed.
I kind of vaguely remember that, but
because it's like it's more of a bonding scene because like Zoe is like afraid of the dark and like latches on to Kristen at that point.
Oh yes, I do remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, boy, a real stinker again. So it was like one of these things. It's like I knew my movie was shit. And I liked it just slightly more than I remembered, but still didn't like it at all. Meg's movie I remembered kind of liking, but then ended up not liking nearly as much as I remembered, and then never saw Steve's movie, so I was excited to watch it, and boy, it was a big pile of shit. So really, the roulette wheel did us dirty this time around.
I appreciate that it did us all dirty, though.
Yeah,
like it wasn't just the War of the Ghost of Mars versus Halloween.
Yeah, that would have been
fucking
worst.
blown.
No, that would have been the worst. So this actually it did play out to our advantage in that way. But I am So how do you want to do this, Steve? As far as the voting.
Well, I guess the same way we got Ghost of Mars out of the way as just ceremony, we can get Meg and I's votes out of the way as ceremony.
Okay.
Meg already said, I believe, that she loves her film. So. Meg, if you would like to cast your vote.
I am voting for my movie.
Yeah. I'm also voting for my movie. The Village of the Damned it was fucking boring and it looks like a TV movie.
I didn't attack you one last time, okay, bud?
You could have.
I know.
If you want to, go ahead. I don't care.
We talked about these movies enough. Now I just want to know what Brian has to say. This is the important part.
All right. Well, so Steve
I'm drawing it out. I'm a showman, and I want to give the audience a little bit of,
showmanship. A showman.
Yeah.
Showman's got a show.
And I am just an anxious human being, and I just need to know if I'm the winner.
All right. So what is your second pick?
My second pick obviously would be Village of the Damned. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Meg, what is your second pick?
It would be his film.
Okay. I was hoping one of you would be arrogant enough to vote for my movie for your second pick, and then I could surprise everyone by voting for my own. That wasn't going to happen.
Oh my God!
That would have been.
I mean, listen.
Wow.
I was gonna do
that would have
it.
been a Ric Flair move.
Yeah,
that
I was
would have
gonna
been
go
brilliant.
I was going to go dirtiest player
worked.
in the game. I really listen, but I don't know that I could have done that in all good conscience because Ghost of Mars is absolute poop.
There would have been an
great.
uprising, but yeah,
wouldn't that have been great?
Would have been a great heel move.
Yeah, total heel turn. I would have definitely done it. So here's kind of where I'm at. Village of the Damned, like I said, I did not like it as much as I remembered, but at least it has some iconic imagery. In the images of the kids, there's some creepy scenes. The Ward was definitely a way better shot movie. Like, it was a better constructed movie in, I would say, almost every way. But it was so painfully forgettable that it really is. They both had the mostly cons, but had some pros. And like, I'm trying to balance out which one I think is better. I think if there was a movie where it's like, which one, this is going to be like my ultimate like litmus test is if you had to, and you had to watch one or the other again, which one would you watch again? I would probably have to watch Village of the Damned again. I know this. Meg is already flexing. She's already spinning around in her chair. I don't think I could tolerate the Ward again.
But what about all the hidden, nods to, like what the reveal is? Like, there's plenty of clues hidden within to discover.
I guarantee you're right, but I couldn't care a fucking less. And I think Steve's shaking his head no as well because it was such a forgettable movie. And I think if they would have put in some more scares, some more better imagery of Alice, like it could have, but it just wasn't there wasn't enough there. I remember looking at my phone like 48 minutes in, and I'm like, nothing has happened in this movie. So it was a fucking slog. And the performances were just bad. And at least, honestly, Mark Hamill might have saved Village of the Damned. I don't know. But
I can't really be mad or fault or be angry about this. Just because Village of the Damned, even though as fucking boring as it is, it does have explosions.
Yeah.
So
the movie went
not as
quicker.
many as Ghost of Mars. But
Like I watched both Ghost of Mars, frankly, and Village of the Damned. I watched them. I was like, okay, these are like moving along pretty well. The Ward was a slog for me, and it was only an hour and 35 minutes long. But it felt like it was a couple hours long. But in any case, what that means is Meg has taken home for the second time.
You know what?
First time since the first Showdown episode, Meg has taken home the strap.
I need this. I need it. I need to carry it around every single day with me, and I'm going to do that.
Yeah. Next week, we will hopefully get the chance to record in person. Meg will get her strap. Now, here's the question, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, because if the answer is no, that's fine, because I did the very same thing. But do you have a punishment movie in line for us, or are you still milling that one around in your brain?
Were you prepared to win today?
Yeah.
No, but you know what? I think what I do choose might surprise you guys.
All right.
We'll go with that. That's what I'm going to respond with.
Very
Joe Dirt.
Interesting. Joe Dirt, yeah.
Joe Dirt Day. Let's do this.
So, well, we are wrapping up the old October Showdown. John Carpenter, what we should have actually referred to as John Carpenter's 3 worst movies Showdown. But it was a lot of fun, and at least it was at least like I said, XD said it would have been worse if it was like The Ward, Ghosts of Mars, and then somebody got The Thing, because then it's like what's going to happen no matter what.
Why would you listen to this?
right. So it was a lot of fun discussing these 3 genuinely pretty fucking dumb movies. If you're a fan of any of these flicks, like I said, when I posted about Ghost of Mars, there were plenty of people who were standing Ghost of Mars. I'm sure that'll be the case with Village of the Damned. I guarantee there's a bunch of people who dig Village of the Damned.
I want to watch it again. I want to watch it again after like us talking about it again, because like I said, after watching it for the first time, I'm like, I don't hate this. I just don't dislike it,
Yeah, I'm interested to see, and maybe we'll put out a poll this week too, like once the episode's out a little bit, like, hey, did we get it right kind of thing? What's your favorite of those 3 movies? Because I would be surprised, and I gotta feel probably just not nearly as many people have seen The Ward, because it's the newest one, and it really just was not released to very much fanfare. It's not streaming anywhere besides.
It's hard to find.
Yeah, I literally had to pay at like $4 on YouTube to watch it, I think. So it's not like I imagine way fewer people have actually seen it, but
I was a little surprised, because I feel like that was around the time when I was really starting to get into horror, and I was watching stuff that was like a little bit newer at that time. So I was a little surprised that it hadn't come across my plate yet.
This for sure is a Redbox film.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it hit theaters, but it's one of those things that like it's a new release, and like I've never heard of it, but
I remember when it came out to really, it was really poorly reviewed, and it just like people did not like it. I know John Carpenter, I don't think is like a huge fan of it. I don't want to speak for a bit. Like I feel like he wasn't particularly thrilled about the whole thing. So it was kind of one of those ones where I was just like, oh yeah, this is going to be another Ghost of Mars level flop. So I just never even saw it when it came out. So, But so next week's mini-sode, we are slapping into the Halloween spooky season here. We are in the main event of October, and we've got some super fun, spooky ass shit that we're going to be doing for you throughout the remainder of October. This is only kicking off the festivities that are October. So yeah, go ahead and follow us on the Instagram if you want. Like I said, at Halloween is Forever, at Hallow Forever on Twitter, Halloween is Forever on Facebook, Halloween's Forever Pod on Gmail, and at Halloween is Forever Pod on the TikToks. And like I said, follow Meg because we're going to be doing a little trek through classic horror for the entire month, which should be super, super fun. So, and we got some fun little surprises and cool things happening throughout the balance of the month here as well. And hope you're all feeling real spooky ooky out there. Anything else?
Don't forget to leave a 5-star review.
Yeah,
somewhere.
If you could do that, we got a lot of folks tuning into the podcast for the first time, and if you haven't already, if you can do the like, the subscribe, the follows, that's all wonderful. And if your podcatcher, like on Apple Podcasts, has an opportunity for you to give a 5-star review and write a little review on there, it gets our podcast into more spooky ooky ears. So that is always very much welcome. So if there's nothing else for the Halloween is Forever crew, I'm Brian.
I'm Meg.
I'm Dr. Superman.
Bye. Bye.